I welcome you all, basketball degenerates, to another episode of the Pass First, Shoot Later podcast brought to you by the OC Basketball League. I'm your host, Zico Pepic, here with my co-hosts, Michael Van Wyck and Omar Almadine. What's up, guys? How you doing? Happy holidays to you both.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays indeed. Rocking the Christmas pajamas.
Mike, Omar and I don't celebrate Christmas. Omar's repping his Kobe Bryant jersey right there. Omar, show it off for everybody. Make sure so the camera goes to you.
Yeah, you see that? 2-4.
Even Zoom's blurring it out.
Nah, that's just me being fat, Mike. I can't get in the whole entire camera.
It's the green screen. It's the green screen. Mike, Omar and I are Muslim, so we don't celebrate Christmas. You're the one that celebrates Christmas in this group, so I just want to know what was Christmas like for your family this year?
Oh, it's the same every year. We do a lot of running around, Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. Christmas Eve with my wife's family, and then we're at home, do Christmas morning with the kids, and then go off to my mom. Anthony meets us over there, and we just do the whole thing at my mom's.
So what was the best Christmas gift given this year? That's what everybody really wants to know.
That depends who you ask. I got a lot of good stuff. Nothing in
What's the best gift you got, Mike? Come on, we want to hear that.
Oh man, I don't know. I'd have to think. I got a
What's
shirt.
The best gift you gave?
Really nice.
Yeah, what's the best you gave?
I don't. You'd have to ask the people. Everybody got something different. My kids think it's all from. The two older ones don't think it's from Santa anymore, but the girls do. So now they can't watch this. We'll spoil it.
Spoiler alert. But for everybody, that's why we're starting late, because Mike was still unwrapping gifts when we were supposed to start our podcast. But we are here to unwrap a very important topic today.
It's a continuation.
Yeah, but we're unwrapping each's, top 10.
I got a Christmas miracle for you all.
I'm so interested. We might as well start with Mike.
We could hold off on that. Listen, one of my favorite things on Christmas Day, even though I don't celebrate it, is there are a bunch of basketball games going on. Okay, so like I want to touch on this. Like I ever since I was a kid, I would stay home all day and just watch basketball nonstop. I know you guys do that a little bit too. As I've gotten older, I can't watch the entire game of every single game. So instead, I'll watch bits and pieces of all of them. Was there any game today that you guys were surprised by?
The Heat without Jimmy Butler. That's a shocker.
Well, Embiid didn't play either, so
yeah. But
well, I was also surprised of the Knicks beating Milwaukee on Christmas Day.
I wasn't.
I know you're a low-key Knicks fan. We got that, but the reality of it is I still view Milwaukee as one of the top teams in the East, and we talked about this before. How they're gelling is something they need to figure out, but I didn't think that New York would have full control of the game the way they did.
Is Zico still considered low-key a Knicks fan after that last episode? I think everyone knows it now.
Well, I mean, I'm still low key. Like, I'm a Lakers fan first and foremost. I will always be a Lakers diehard fan. There are teams I follow. Look, when you start watching, when you pay for NBA TV, you don't want to just pay for NBA TV. You want to watch the games, and so you kind of start following other teams that maybe have players that you like. New York over time has been a team that I will consistently watch because I have so many family members in New York. So every time you go to New York, that's what's on TV anyway, whenever you're going out and out to dinner, whatever you are. So I've watched more Knicks games than the average Californian will. And
so you don't acknowledge Brooklyn then?
No, I don't. It's not that I don't acknowledge them, but
you're a real Knicks fan.
No, it's not like that's not really not it. It's like the same thing like with the Clippers. I was talking with Mike about this. Like, Omar, you're a Lakers fan. Do you look at the Clippers as a threat, like in any way, shape, or form? I don't. Like, to me, like the Clippers, like my
but I'm low-key a Brooklyn fan.
Oh, okay. So that's different for you.
Hey, can we speaking of from Brooklyn? I mean, he's a past player, but you know who I saw has their own State Farm commercial now?
Brooke Lopez.
Brooke Lopez.
Well deserved.
You know what? I will never take it away from another person making money passive income from endorsements and commercials.
He
And
does.
sometimes you don't need to be a superstar to get a commercial, Mike. You can,
Definitely not.
no, because you've seen Boban's commercial, one of Zico's favorite
Yeah,
players.
yeah, those are hilarious, man.
Okay, he's not a superstar, but he dribbles, he dribbles, he dribbles, and he dribbles, and he dribbles.
Was
I
it
mean,
dribble or bounce? He bounces it. He bounces
Bounce
oh,
it.
he
it.
bounces it.
Bounce
He
it.
bounces it. He
But
bounces
hey,
it. Yeah.
but I never said he was a superstar. He's a star. Boban's a star. That dude's commercials are great.
You know what? He's officially a star now in Hollywood. He got a commercial.
There you go. Okay.
He's in a
Hey,
movie, man. Come on.
Before we get too far
there's
away
so
from
many
those
players that
Christmas
were in
games, and I know you guys hate to see it, but 6 Celtics in double figures.
Oh, I'm a Laker fan, and I fell asleep watching the game today because I am tired of this LeBron era Lakers, and I'm ready for him to move on or retire.
I'm not a big LeBron fan, but I don't hate LeBron in any way. Like my hope is LeBron can help the Lakers get another title.
That's not going to happen, and I'm a Laker fan.
Yeah,
He's
I
also
don't.
got 2 bands.
As constructed, it's not happening. I'm completely aware of that. LeBron is well past his prime, and again, I'm not going to hate on him for it because I know it's like when the player gets older. We watched it with Kobe. It kind of sucks. You're rooting for them to do well, but you know the capabilities are starting to go away. Completely understand LeBron's in that situation right now, and for him to even have a chance to be able to do it, I think the team needs him to be a legitimate number B option. And although Anthony Davis did play like an A option today, I don't think he could do it for the entirety of a season or a playoff.
But as long as that offense runs through LeBron, it becomes stagnant and slow.
Right.
Okay, nobody's knocking LeBron's career. Again, what he's doing at 39, is special, unique. I'm not knocking that. I don't hate the guy. But as a Laker fan, okay, yes, you got us the bubble championship, but it's nothing but Hollywood since he's been there.
Yeah, I
And
agree with that, Omar.
and so as long as the offense is running through LeBron, everything is catered to LeBron, everything is built around LeBron, we're going to continue to struggle the way we do. It's that simple. Nothing against what he does as a player. Still putting up numbers. I mean, he's still scoring at a high level. I can't take that away from the guy.
Well, he
But
didn't score at a high level today.
no, not today. Exactly. But Zico, you saw that tag I tagged you in, right? Somebody thought he was going to come back and score 40 today after his little HGH injections that everybody talks about.
Yeah, I to be honest with you, like that was kind of like a setup for me to see him get 40 in his last game and then come over here. Like usually, like especially get those older, you're gonna have one big game and then the next game is gonna be a little rough. Like the body wears on you. It's gonna be a little harder to do the things you were able to do in the last game. So I'm not surprised by today's loss. I'm a real Laker fan. Again, like Clippers don't threaten me whatsoever. The Celtics do. We're tied for titles. I don't want the Celtics to win. My biggest thing for rooting for Milwaukee is the Milwaukee Bucks beat the Celtics just because they don't want them to have a clear path to get to the finals and get a ring. Especially since I feel that Denver's the best team in the league, but I don't think Denver will repeat. So Boston to me is the biggest threat in the NBA right now. And to me, that's my biggest worry, that the Celtics get another title. And this is a podcast and we're like journalists in this matter. And that's a little biased. Like I am admitting I'm completely biased in this matter.
But when it comes from a basketball standpoint, when you have 6 players scoring double figures, especially the way Boston scored today, I mean, you having Drew Holiday at 18 because of who's around him, right? Not that Drew can't score 18, but with everybody else around him. And I mean, Porzingis, he shot 2 for 8 from 3 and could have almost had 40 had he knocked down 50% of his, shots, his threes, not almost 40, not 40, because he finished with 28 and he was 11 for 19 from the field. So if they play at that level, they're going to be tough to beat. Yes.
Yeah. I agree with that. They're going to be tough to beat. I hate to admit it, but they're tough to beat. By the way, I have the Dallas versus Suns game going on right now. Looks like there was just about a fight right now. It looks like it's Devin Booker and Grant Williams got tangled up. I love seeing that on Christmas Day. That's like old school.
Fights on Christmas.
Nothing better than a Christmas Day fight.
Oh,
And
man.
and that's what Grant Williams does. When you're when you score nothing one game, you're doing something else. Him and PJ Tucker, those are two guys that are common to get under
Oh,
your
yeah, I
skin.
love PJ Tucker. Yeah.
Did you hear about him getting mad about his PT in LA and with the Clippers? Like,
I
what
don't
are you
blame him.
expecting? But what are you expecting?
I think he's either going to be traded or bought out at some point, and he'll go to another team. I think Mike mentioned in the last episode, we could see him going to Golden State. I could see him going to Dallas, a team like
Well,
that.
there's rumors that he's going back to either one of the two teams he played with.
I don't
actually,
think he could go to Philly.
I don't think he played. No, I can't remember if he actually played with Miami, but he played with the Bucks. So there's rumors that he's going back, that he'll consider going back to the Bucks.
I don't see him getting the playing time with the Bucks either. You know, the Bucks have a lot of forward depth. You know, Bobby Portis is there. Jay Crowder is there too. He's been injured for most of the year. But he will be back soon. I don't know if he's going to get the time there. I could see him going to Miami.
Oh, he did. He did play for Miami. I take that. So I was right. He did play for both the Bucks and Miami.
Miami would be a good situation for him to go to, or Phoenix. Phoenix is another team I could see him going there because he did play for that team for a lot of years as well. So we'll see. But that we're going to save that for another episode. I do want to say one thing, Mike. We had a conversation again in the last episode. I talked about the Knicks. I talked about OKC. I'm a little bummed right now. I don't know if you've heard the news. Omar and I went over this before the podcast started. Mitchell Robinson, starting center of the New York Knicks, out for the year. Huge blow for the Knicks. They did win today, but that guy is a defensive monster. Honestly, I feel like he could be all defensive player. He's had a great season up until now. Changes that team a lot. And then Josh Giddey as well. He had a serious knee injury. They don't know the extent of it. The report was he's out indefinitely. So two teams I'm rooting for, two teams I really like, and I feel like we're in a good position. Had some pretty damaging situations for their franchise right now. So bummed for both teams. So I know Mike's feeling a little better about his predictions for both of them now.
Nah, I don't. You never want to see players get hurt. You don't want to see anyone get hurt. You want to see teams at full strength taking on other teams at full strength. So then you get a clearer picture of who's who. I think that the Knicks lost a bigger player in what they're doing than OKC did with Giddey. Obviously, Giddey's having a good season, but
There was something interesting, which I love throwing the trade talk out there, especially as we're getting closer to the trade deadline. I might
write these down.
have to. This is no. Actually, this was reported, so I have nothing to do with this. But apparently,
Reported by
Hang on.
Okay,
on,
yeah, this is my Woj bombs for the league. I know everybody loves that.
I had nothing to do. You don't have anything to do with any of the trades.
I know, but we were talking about which ones I could predict that might end up happening. We're gonna do an episode for that, Omar. I'm gonna predict a bunch of stuff. We'll see if any of it happens. But one thing was reported was actually that OKC had offered Josh Giddey and Bertans and draft picks to the Utah Jazz for Lauri Markkanen.
Are any of those draft picks
Or
on Giddey's radar?
Are any of the what?
Draft picks on Giddey's radar?
Oh, man. Oh, man.
Yeah. They're
Well,
class of 20.
There's another aspect to this. He'd be getting traded to the Utah Jazz, which is an interesting place for him. I think he'd do very well over there.
He would flourish.
But yeah, that was an
in,
interesting trade.
In reality, all BS aside, Mike, that trade, yes, they'll lose something in Giddey, but having Lauri Markkanen alongside Chet and SGA is going to be huge for that team.
Yeah, but it's not
you
going to happen now.
You kind of get a two.
Happen now. If Giddey's out for the year, I don't see it happening.
Yeah, but he still has value too. So in today's world, certain injuries, I mean, it's not the same as back in the day when you used to get it, tear your ACL. Now guys can come back 6 months later. I mean, look at Aaron Rodgers, tore his Achilles, who was back in months.
He ain't played yet, though.
But the bottom line is you can't take injuries the way they were back in the day. Guys can still be traded even though they're injured. But I think there's an NBA Players Association like physical clearance, that you have to pass the physical clearance that might affect that. But just speaking from it, you're basically trading 2 players for one, which you open up a roster spot.
Yeah, again, I think the trade's probably dead in the water at this point, just because if that trade were to go through, I'm pretty sure that Giddey would be something that Utah has in their future plans, immediate plans and future plans. So we'll see. The trade deadline's a ways away. And again, it was out indefinitely. That might be a month. That might be the rest of the season. We don't know. We'll have to wait and see what the extent of the injury is. It didn't look good though. I don't know if you guys saw the video of it. It did not look good. So
No, it's still not online either.
yeah. All right. So moving into our episode of the day, we are breaking down our top 10 all time. This is a topic a lot of people have been asking me to do. We broke it down to 2 episodes. Last episode, 2 episodes ago, we talked about players that are outside looking in, players that have the potential of moving into it, or players that were just close, players that have retired that were really close to being in there. Maybe they fell short of having one bit of criteria that didn't fit being in the top 10. I will reiterate the criteria that we looked at for being top 10 all time: statistical dominance, championship rings, at least one MVP, a great peak, longevity, affect both sides of the ball, competition and era, skill, historical value, dominance in their era, team impact, playoff performance, individual accolades, and supporting cast. So these are things that we looked at for the top 10. I actually weighed on most of these things pretty heavily in deciding my top 10. So I don't know. Again, this is our own opinions. I don't know how much of those things each of you guys value. Knowing Mike, I know Mike really values peak. That's something that's really important to him, because there are some guys that I feel in a regular top 10, when you look at the longevity, they're going to be higher than others. But if you were to do top 10 based off of actual peak, I think this list is completely different, probably for all of us. So we included all these things in our lists, or at least I did. I don't know what your criteria is or we're focused more on. So let's get into that now. The way we're going to do this episode is we're going to talk about those 2 guys, our top 12, since we mentioned them last episode. 2 guys that were just right outside looking in, or maybe could even break that mold. Based off of every article that we could find, 2 guys that were sitting there were Hakeem Olajuwon and Oscar Robertson. That might not be the case for us, but we're going to start off with Omar. Omar, I want to know, who are the 2 guys you had outside your top 10 that just fell short?
My 2 that fell short is AI and KG.
Okay, interesting. Please explain why those 2 guys were there.
So KG, as we talked about in a previous episode, is, his ability early on to be one of the few to be able to guard all 5 positions, and being drafted out of high school, the impact that he had on the game, both offensively, defensively, his ability to score. I think if he would have won more championships, he would have had a strong argument cracking that top 10. I think the fact that he spent too much time in Minnesota and went to Boston, only has 1 ring, put a damper on his career, just like so many others that I'm not going to get into that, have the statistical, background and have some accolades that just won't crack the top 10 because of not having enough championships.
What about AI?
Now,
that one's the
AI,
one like, whoa, that kind of, I didn't expect this one to be high.
AI to me is pound for pound the best scorer of all time. And I put that caveat, pound for pound, being that he was barely 6 foot, not even 6 feet, probably a $150, $160, scoring how he did, carrying a team on his shoulder, like we talked about the cast surrounding cast, what he did, the way he impacted the culture of the game. Remember, the dress code was implemented because of him and others, but mainly AI. The cornrows, the tattoos. He was part of the NBA culture shift. And you're going to see when I talk about others, that's where the NBA, that's where the top 10 for me is. Like, how do you impact it? Had AI won a couple rings,
Oh yeah, this
he
list.
cracked the top.
Yeah,
That's the case for a lot of guys, I feel like.
Correct,
I
but those
agree.
are my top two for that didn't make it because they didn't have the championships.
I will say this, KG for me was my number 13. I'm a big fan of KG. I think he's underappreciated. I think he was unlucky enough to be in his prime in an era with Kobe and Duncan, which probably affected him winning titles. I think if KG was in the NBA today, I think he's the best player in the NBA. Prime KG in today's NBA would be an absolute monster. I don't think anyone would stop him. We just watched Porzingis score 28 points against the Lakers, shooting threes, posting up, doing all these things. Imagine KG, who's faster, who's a better defender, who's more aggressive of a player, who could dribble the ball too. I think people forget that. Who's a better passer, but about the same height as Porzingis. I mean, I think he would just dominate today's NBA. And the same thing goes for AI. AI in today's NBA, like he played in an era where all those big guys were just sitting in the paint.
So if AI was 6'5",
I mean, then you're looking at a
We can do
Kobe
that.
Jordan type player, an offensive powerhouse. You know, I think
but that's why I said
Kyrie.
pound for pound.
Yeah, I think that's like the same thing with like Kyrie. It's like the skill level of someone that talented is unbelievable, and for them to be a little shorter definitely hurts them on both ends of the floor.
All right, so I'll just jump in here because we'll wait for Zico's. I'm not going to get my whole top 10. We're just doing 11 to 12 right now, and I think most people by now know my top 10 is roughly how it's going to shape. But I've been talking about a Christmas miracle. So after talking with you guys and having some conversations afterwards, Kobe Bryant has passed Hakeem Olajuwon.
Hey,
But wait. So I got Hakeem Olajuwon dropping down to number 12.
okay, so he skipped the 11 spot.
He skipped the 11 spot because Kobe's still in that 11th spot.
You're terrible,
So
Mike.
this person that's passing, and we'll get into it later. But I mean, obviously, I don't need to explain why Kobe's the 11th. Everyone's going to have him higher.
I think you actually do need to explain why Kobe's the 11th. I think that's
because the 10 people I have there, I think have done more and are better team aspect players. They've done more for their teams. They've accomplished a lot.
So the question is, what was Kobe missing to not crack your top 10?
What was Kobe missing? That he just wasn't there with the other 10 that are there. I mean, Kobe, in my opinion, Kobe didn't make players around him better. He wasn't that team, and I know Zico's smiling and Zico's going to argue that, but Kobe didn't elevate his teammates, in my opinion. He didn't. There was nobody there. Nobody said, "Oh my gosh, Andrew Bynum's a stud," because look at what he did with Kobe. Nobody had a better career and just move. They didn't change. He didn't make players on his team better.
So I'm gonna say something off the wall here, and we can leave this for another episode, Zico. But if you make that comment about Kobe, I need you to tell me who LeBron made better.
Everybody around him whose name you know.
Okay, getting them paid and having them to catch and shoot shooters in the corner, well, is not making them better.
But he made every player around him better, with the exception of the big superstars who, including himself, took a cut in what they did to be on the same team. You're not going to have players. You're not going to have Chris Bosh coming in doing the same thing.
So LeBron made Kyrie better.
No.
LeBron made Kevin Love better.
Kyrie, Dwayne Wade, Kevin Love, Chris Bosh. Those are the exceptions. Every other player on his team, he made.
So who did he make better?
Every other player on his team from the get-go.
Give me who?
Boobie Gibson, Zdronis Ilgauskas, Austin Reeves, Anthony Davis, all these players. Every other Kyle Korver.
He made Anthony Davis better.
Yes, 100%.
Okay, we're done here. Zico.
I actually will agree with Mike about he made Anthony Davis better, but that's because I feel that every big man needs to have a perimeter threat to make them better. Mike has had the point of before that you put Shaq with any of these other top 10 and they're going to win. I don't think that's the case. I think if you put them with other bigs, it's not going to work. I think the most critical thing and the most successful way to build a championship team is to have one elite post player and one elite perimeter player. The only other exception will end up being is if you have 2 or 3 elite perimeter players to balance each other out.
And that's your Bulls.
That's almost never. Yeah. It's also LeBron and Wade. So
Well,
like,
they have Bosh. They have Bosh.
no, Bosh. You can't.
yeah, but
Bosh,
Bosh's stats and Kevin Love's stats when they were together were completely dropped. So like Kyrie and LeBron.
because of LeBron. That's my whole point.
because of being on the team. They are. Listen, Kevin
Well,
Garnett's stats. Kevin
Mike,
Garnett's
actually,
stats
this is
went
what
down
I'm
in
going to give.
Boston.
This is what I'm also going to agree with Omar. I think the way that LeBron plays is not necessarily catered to being a perfect
Real
combination.
post player.
And the fact that Anthony Davis is as versatile as he is, it's the only reason that it worked for him. And also that Anthony Davis is
And
such
which is why LeBron didn't make Anthony Davis better, is Anthony Davis had the ability to coexist with LeBron before that even happened. The versatility of AD before he even
Here.
got to the Lakers.
Let
is
me make it simpler. Would AD have ever won a championship without LeBron?
No. Would Shaq have ever won one had he had Jason Kidd instead of Kobe Bryant against Tim Duncan?
Hey, he won with Dwayne Wade.
We talked about this. No.
I'm a Jason Kidd fan. I think Shaq and Jason
Remember
Kidd
we
probably
talked about, Mike, the
championship.
trade that almost went down was Kobe for Jason Kidd. If Jason Kidd and Kobe Bryant were traded and Shaq had Jason Kidd, he never would have beaten Tim Duncan.
I don't know. I'm a
He
Jason
never
Kidd
would have beaten Tim
Uh,
Duncan.
Yeah,
and I think that's
Look,
that's tough.
again, you know what? I'm going to ask this, Mike. Actually, I'm going to ask this. Of your top 10, how many guys are better offensive players than Kobe Bryant?
as far as scoring or as far as complete team offense.
no.
Scoring.
Complete-
How many guys are better offensive player than Kobe Bryant on your
complete
top 10?
player, offensive player.
Yeah,
Taking
complete
all of
offensive.
them.
You think all of them are better offensive players?
As far as a complete offensive package, passing, getting players, like I'm saying, are they? What are they doing? Are they playing one-on-one? Is it just can I score with 4 guys on me, or is it can I get my teammates involved?
So you think LeBron has the same offensive package as Kobe?
No, it's completely different. But I'm taking LeBron's offensive skill set top to bottom. I'm talking about the best scorer in NBA history, right?
No,
That's what we're talking about.
he might be the leading scorer. That doesn't make him the best scorer. Those are two
Correct.
completely things.
Hold on.
Dude's
Just because
the
you have the
leading
most
scorer-
points in the
he's the
NBA
leading
does not make you the
scorer-
best scorer.
Guys, he also has more assists than everybody else on that list.
He also has more turnovers and more missed shots.
He's
And
played more minutes,
but
longer
Mike,
games
Mike,
with
Mike,
Those
just
things add up.
because you have the most points in the NBA or the most assists in the NBA does not. We're going back to your comment about you saying he was the best scorer. He was not.
Kareem
I didn't
is
say he
not
was
a
the best scorer.
than Michael.
You said that.
No, I did not.
You just did. You
I
literally-
didn't say he was the best scorer. I said we're
Okay,
talking
well
about
then-
the all-time leading.
Zico, take that snippet back out and send it to him
But
separately.
hold on a
because-
second. See, Mike,
No,
this-
you're
this
saying
is-
best
hold on, no,
scorer.
no.
I know what you're saying. You're saying
This
best
is-
scorer. No, as
Right,
far as
but-
scoring the ball, he's not the best scorer. Obviously, he has the most
How
points.
many-
So he's
how
the
many
all-time
guys-
leading scorer.
That's what now you see you're changing my question. I just asked you how many guys in your top 10 are better scorers, offensive players than Kobe Bryant?
But scoring isn't all of offense.
Mike, how many players in your top 10 are better offensive players than Kobe Bryant?
I just said all of them. But if you say scorer, I'm not going to say all of them.
Okay, let's go to the next spot. How many of them are better defensive players than Kobe Bryant?
9.
No, there isn't, Mike. No, there isn't. Now, and see, this is the bias.
So-
I'm gonna.
okay,
It's your personal list. It's fine. It's your personal list, but like this is like where like the numbers don't add up to like what you're saying, and this is like where I have an issue with it, and most people are going to have an issue with it. The only player all time who has more all defensive appearances than Kobe Bryant is Tim Duncan, which Tim Duncan is a better defensive player than him.
Listen, the only
Michael Jordan
person,
is a better defensive player than him.
the only person, actually 2. There's only 2 people on my list that have more seasons than Kobe. Kobe played more seasons than most people.
Mike, he didn't get those defensive accolades in his first 2 seasons. He didn't get those defensive accolades in his last 5 seasons. If you take
Okay.
the 10-year mark, his numbers are right there again with Michael Jordan, LeBron James as being the top.
And he's not that many spaces behind, guys.
Yeah, I think
Okay, you know what? This is this always
see,
is
we're always
always a
focused on
topic.
the wrong thing. We got to get to the top 10. Listen,
Yeah, okay, so
Akeem is at
we'll
12. I gave you Akeem.
okay, that's fine.
Akeem,
Well,
You know
he's at
what?
12
And
for
shout
obvious
out to
reasons.
I'm
shout
curious
out
to
to
see which player jumped him because there will be rebuttal there, but
100% there will be.
oh yeah, I know there will
I'm
be.
interested to see who Mike's top 10 is.
We discussed them.
So I'm gonna go to my 12, my 11th and 12th. I've always been extremely respectful to the history of the basketball game, the NBA, and all of the things that former players have accomplished. However, I am starting to get to a point of understanding that what they did and the time frame that they did it at and the competition at that level doesn't match what players are doing in today's NBA or what they've done in the past, as in most recent passes. And again, Kobe Bryant, Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett. My number 12 is actually Steph Curry right now. He beat out Kevin Garnett, who I had at 13. And for me, Oscar Robertson's the one that dropped. Oscar Robertson only had one title in all the years that he played. Steph Curry has 4. I know Oscar Robertson has all these stats and things that accolades that people love, like seeing, but to me, a lot of it is like Russell Westbrook right now. And I feel like they're very similar players in that aspect of they produced. It didn't always translate to winning. And I think Steph Curry did translate to winning. So for me, Steph actually jumped into my top 12, and he obviously has the capabilities of going further, going higher. And I want to acknowledge that. I think he absolutely passed Oscar Robertson. Yes, he did have some very elite stacked teams, but for what he has done, the way he's changed the NBA, what he means to the NBA today and for the future of the NBA is huge to me, because I think every team is looking for that next great shooter. You know, like we see like the Atlanta Hawks, they drafted Trae Young because they felt like he could be a similar type shooter. He never will be, but they're looking at these smaller players for lights out shooters, and teams are starting to build around that. So Steph Curry got into my 12th spot. My 11th spot has stayed the same. It's Hakeem Olajuwon. This has to do with peak versus longevity. Hakeem Olajuwon's peak was almost as good as anybody's on this list. He's right there in terms of peak. So I have to give him credit for that. However, I won't break him into the top 10 because he won when Jordan wasn't playing. He never went to a finals when Jordan was there. And to me, that was a big disappointment, because I think those were the 2 best players from that draft era. And from like all the guys that are on that list, you know, we talked about Karl Malone, we talked about Charles Barkley and David Robinson, guys that were competing at that time. I just don't think Hakeem has enough longevity wise to crack that top 10. So for me, those are the 2 guys looking outside in. Mike, do you have a rebuttal for any of those 2? Because I will welcome them.
No, I actually happy with your selections. I think they're pretty close to spot on. And as far as, like I'm saying, 1 to 11 isn't that big of a gap. So I've got Hakeem at 12. You've got him at 11.
1 to 11 is not that big of a gap.
No, as far as in terms of the history of the NBA and these players.
See, I think, well, maybe if you tell me 3, 4,
You want me to,
6 to 12, there's not that big of a gap.
you want me to jump in with my number 10?
We're gonna let Omar go first. Omar, go ahead and go first.
No. Let Mike go. Let Mike go.
Because you guys are all interested, and
Yeah, I'm actually interested in Mike's top 10.
like I said, I've listened, and I just listened some more, and number 10 is now Steph Curry. I think for all of the reasons that Zico just mentioned, he's changed the game. He's going to change it moving forward. They've done so many things, and what he's done is just scoring. And this is where we're going to defer, and you're going to come back. And that's why I said there's only 9 guys better defensively than Kobe on this top 10. I'm not saying there's a huge gap between 10, 11, and 12. It's not. But for all the things and all the reasons and the different teams that Steph has gone out and won with, and the players he beat, I mean, he beat, and I'm sure we all have him in our top 5. He beat LeBron James teams. He beat Tim Duncan teams. He beat just the teams he's beaten. Obviously, it was Tim Duncan at the end of his career. Kobe wasn't even on the radar because he was no good anymore. He beat all those guys, and he continues to win. And even this year, people didn't want to count him out. They, for all intents and purposes, the rest of his teammates are over the hill. They're not producing like they were. People expected them to do. They wanted Jordan Poole to be this guy. They got rid of him because he can't. And Curry's still producing, still through his injuries, still everything he's done. MVPs, Finals MVP, finally added that. He's got the rings. He's got all of it. He is hands down the best shooter in history. He is only going to widen that moat between him and everybody else. And that's why he's jumped into my top 10. Got to have some new guys in there.
Omar, any rebuttal to that?
Not at all.
Okay, I will have a rebuttal to that just because, as much as I love Steph Curry, he has 4 titles to Kobe's 5, and he had a deeper team than Kobe had. Like Kobe did play with Cat Powell, Kobe did play with Shaq. However, if you look at the depth of what the Warriors had, Steph has had deeper teams. 2, Kobe has way more defensive accolades and is 10 times the defensive player that he is.
But Zico, just defense alone
era,
does not
I
make.
know. And then considering era for when Kobe played to when Steph played, Kobe Bryant is a better offensive player because Kobe Bryant faced a defense that Steph Curry has never touched.
But
I'm not.
Hold on, Zico. Are we gonna comment on every single pick here? We're not gonna be done till tomorrow morning.
Well, we will, because I have to prove like something.
Let him say his whole top 10 first, and then we can make general comments.
Well, I think we should make comments.
Listen, that's the one thing that's not going to work on this is saying he faced tougher defenses. Steph Curry shoots from anywhere he wants.
No, Mike, that's completely different. This is why I'm going to explain this to you. This is the difference between today's NBA and what we were looking at back then. Okay, if you look at the shooting percentages from 3 from 2000s to today, they're still around the same percentage. The NBA has not changed. Actually, only since the 90s that it's improved. Since the 2000s, the NBA players have been shooting 39% from three-point line, especially from open three-pointers. Okay, so that's the average that we've had for the last 25 years. It has not changed. What has changed? The game has changed because teams in the 2000s had, the 90s and 2000s had elite big men. So teams that did not have the elite big men tried to space the floor by using shooters. The Orlando Magic were one of the teams that did this. If you remember, they had Ryan Anderson playing the power forward. Why did they do that? Because they wanted to force guys like Tim Duncan out of the paint, guys like Kevin Garnett out of the paint. They wanted to force those defensive players that could change the game out of the paint so that guys.
But when you bring in Ryan Anderson as an example, who is his big?
But it doesn't matter. None of that matters. You know what changed? You're right. They are shooting the same percentage, and they would have put up bigger numbers then. But analytics weren't there yet, saying, "Hey, let's shoot a 3 more often." And that's what people.
That's also because the big men aren't the same now. Look, what do teams do against Embiid?
How is it analytics? They not
able to do what they're doing.
Analytics, they don't do it.
Those two teams don't use it. They keep funneling things to their big men, and it's working. Those are the 2 MVP candidates in the NBA. So I'm just going to point this out. If Steph Curry played in the 2000s in that defense, he'd still be a great 3-point shooter. However, his volume for shooting is completely different. The average amount of shots taken, 3-pointers taken in a game at that point was.
I
disagree with you, Zico.
He's the reason it changed.
Zico, the 2 big men you're referring to right now are who? Joel Embiid and Jokic, right?
Right.
And they both shoot 3s.
Right. I know that's
okay.
The change of the game.
Big men back then were not shooting 3s like that. Even KG,
but Omar,
if Tim Duncan,
if KG and Tim Duncan played in today's NBA, do you really think that KG and Tim Duncan are not capable of shooting 3s?
They would have worked on it because the game is different.
Because the game is different.
But,
exactly.
Okay, but you said the game's not different.
Yeah,
it is different.
And Steph Curry changed it, and that's why he's number 10.
I completely disagree with you, and most
But
people.
you can't disagree with somebody's opinion. You just don't have to accept it.
No, me and Mike like arguing about this all the time. And you know what? I think every Kobe fan in the world would hate me if I didn't rebuttal in some way, shape, or form. So,
Hold
Well,
on.
I'll tell you right now.
Wait, guys.
Spoiler alert. Steph is in my top 10. So
Yeah, it should be. But I just want to go on record and say that my opinions are just facts. So you got to accept.
it's not. In fact, your opinions actually go against facts. I could name facts all day long, and you're going to go against them. Like saying that there's 9 guys better defensively than Kobe Bryant on your list.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we'll get into the rest of your top 10.
Mike, whatever eggnog you were drinking for Christmas, that was a hell of an alcohol level in it.
Done today.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So
Okay.
Omar, you up number 10.
My number 10 is Hakeem.
Okay.
Yeah, I love it.
I don't think I have to say much. You guys already said he was on the borderline anyways. We already spoke about why he was regarded to be a top 10. So I'm not going to get too much into it.
My number 10 is Bill Russell. I've told you guys before, I have been extremely respectful of the game and the history of the game. However, as of recent, analyzing statistics more and analyzing competition more, there was only 8 teams in his era. That bothers me more than probably anything. It probably bothers me more than.
So how does he make the top 10?
Well, he makes the top 10 just because the guy won 11 championships in his era.
But then again, if you're only playing against 8 teams,
right,
and 11 seasons, your odds of winning it is far more higher than when there's a 30-team.
Agree. I completely agree with that, Omar. Like, I'm not going to argue with that. I again, like, these 2 guys, and Wilt's in this conversation too, used to be way higher on my list. My list is changing, and I think it's going to continue to change, which is really nice about the top 10. Like, it's going to continue to change as years go by. So my list is changing little by little, and it started with Bill Russell dropping to 10.
Okay.
I had Bill Russell much higher in the past.
Yep. And I don't even have Russell on mine anymore. He's at 13.
Okay, so he's still there for me. Again, he has 11 titles.
And he's not on my list, Mike.
I'm still showing a little bit of respect to the old school, because I do love old school basketball. But again, something that really bothers me is there was only 8 teams. It's the same thing that bothered me with Oscar. It's the same thing that bothers me with Wilt. I don't care how good people say they are. When you're playing against that few of teams, you're going to win more titles. You're going to win more scoring championships.
And then the teams are better in general. When you have 8 teams, I don't care the level of competition. We're just talking about just the overall level of the players. When you're condensing them onto 8 teams versus them being spread out of 30 teams, now you might have 6 great role players versus 3.
Right.
And I just lied, guys. Bill Russell's actually my number 9.
Okay, so we're going back to number 9 now. Mike, you're a Bill Russell.
We're at Bill. I realistically, and I think this is why it was all right debating early on. I think a lot of our next 8 players are going to be very, very similar. So I got Bill Russell at 9, not far off from where you have him. So.
Okay. Omar, number 9.
Larry Bird.
Mike, you got any rebuttal there?
I think it's a little low, but it's still a top 10 player.
I would say this. My list is going to shock you guys when you talk about low and high, because at the end of the day, I think a lot of the older players don't deserve to be sitting that high with certain people, except certain ones, because of certain people's accolades. And, we're in the era. So to me, Larry's in there. But yeah, he dropped to number 9.
And I'm going to go ahead and let you know, like I have before, I had a long conversation with my friend Brandon Tony, and I just want to point out that he agrees with you. He thinks the older players shouldn't have as much pull in that top.
Zico, who's your number 9?
My number 9 is actually Wilt. He dropped. He was higher on my list before he dropped. I think he was a better player than Bill Russell was. I think that he just didn't have the teams to show that. I think when you look back at Bill Russell's teams, they really were stacked, especially in that era. A lot of those teams, like in those 8 teams, I think there was like 3 teams that like never like had like a winning record for multiple years. So it kind of told me like the depth of those teams. I think there's multiple teams that had like six, seven.
But here's a question: how going back to the Bill Russell, since he's in Mike's number 9 here, one thing that's interesting is when you start taking into account their stats, right? Bringing in Wilt and Bill Russell's stats. I mean, sure, he averaged 20 rebounds a game, but with that level of competition he played against and the height disparity he had there, to only score less than 20 for your career.
Well, that's because his team was stacked. If you go look at like he had, I think
Correct. So if his
that Boston
team
Celtics team, I think they had like 6 guys averaging double figures.
I got so then this is where people are going to hang me and shun me for what I'm about to say, but I got to say it. We put so much emphasis on the 11 championships, right? But you just said his team was fully stacked. In that era, we may not know the answer today. If you would have taken Bill Russell, how many championships would that team have had?
And listen, I don't want to credit Bill Russell
for a guy that averaged 16 and 20.
Because Wilt would have won them all.
Okay, fine. Wilt would have won them all. But then again, you never know if Wilt would have not probably ended up in Boston because Bill wasn't there either.
But you don't
know that.
This is one of the reasons why I alluded to earlier that you have great players in the top 10. Bill Russell not only played on that team, he coached that team. He made all the players around him better.
Mike, I don't listen.
That's a reach, Mike.
Play, yeah. See, like, how do you know that he made them better? There's no statistical.
He was their coach.
But that's because in the NBA, there was nights at that point where the coaches would be so pissed drunk they wouldn't be able to make it the next day. There was players doing that too.
But he didn't. He didn't. He's a leader. He's a coach. That's why he's got 11.
Look, LeBron basically coaches teams now.
LeBron has coached his team,
doing it.
Not just now.
Capable of doing it. Am I wrong? Is he capable of doing it? He is, right? He's capable of literally coaching.
LeBron has the basketball IQ to coach his team while playing, and he's done that. And
exactly.
Like he's also in the top 10, guys.
Right.
You're not your argument.
I'm just saying,
Mike, there's multiple guys that could do that. Like LeBron's not the only one. If you think he's the only one, I don't know what you're talking about. Like
I didn't say that. I'm letting you know what Bill Russell did.
That's like a reason for him to be higher. And I don't think it is.
I didn't say Bill Russell should be higher. I have him at 9.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying general, like you're like pointing it out. Like that's a reason why he's as great as he is. Like to me, that's like a moot point. That tells me like that like furthers my reason if he should be even lower possibly.
I'm saying he made his teammates better. He did.
There's no statistical stats to show he made his teammates better. In fact, the stats actually show his teammates were already elite. Havlicek was a great freaking player without Bill Russell.
And better with Bill Russell.
But that's just because you have inside outside. That's what I talked about. Like when you have inside outside teammates.
Yeah, no, I agree. There's a lot of guys on here with other teammates.
Okay. All right. Who's up next? We just did
you did
Mike,
your number 9.
What's your number 8?
My number 8 is Wilt Chamberlain. So it's all the reasons we've already covered. We just discussed it, and then we got back on to Bill Russell. But yeah, for Zico having him at 9, I've got Wilt at 8. He's a step above Bill just because he didn't have the loaded teams, and he still put up those numbers. He still got those accolades. He still did things on both ends. And I think he could still play in today's game. I think if you look at any videos that they actually have of Wilt Chamberlain, he would be a modern day Giannis.
I mean, his genes are playing in today's games. If you look at Otto Porter.
Stop it.
I actually agree with that, Mike. I agree with that. Him and Bill Russell could play in today's NBA. I've watched a lot of footage from old school games, and they could play in today's NBA.
I mean, there's a lot of players we can sit here and say that can play in today's NBA, right? And yes, they're in that category.
Right.
But I'll be honest right now, he's not even in my top 10. He dropped out. Him and Bill.
So who's your 8?
My 8 is Magic.
Okay.
Mike, you got a rebuttal there?
It's the same thing as Bird. I think it's slightly too low.
Okay.
My eight is actually Shaq. Reason why I have Shaq as 8 is because Shaq's peak, if we were to talk about peak, Shaq is probably the best player on this list. Shaq's peak is more dominant than anything Michael Jordan has done. Peak wise, Shaq's probably the best player all time. I have no hesitation in saying that. What he did in his era against some of the best big men we've ever seen, Shaq is the best player I think we've ever seen. I don't know if you guys want to argue that. I think peak wise, those 2 seasons when Shaq was in shape and did what he did, there's no one throughout all of NBA history that is stopping Shaq. I don't care who you want. You want to mention Wilt, you want to mention Embiid, you want to mention anybody, they can't. I don't care who you mention. Jokic, I think Shaq would just destroy him, all of them. So for me, Shaq peak wise is the best player all time. But being a Laker fan, there's aspects of Shaq's game, which were beyond maddening. By the way, Mavs just beat Phoenix Suns 128-114. That was the last game of the night. So yeah. There's reasons Shaq, I'm sorry to go back to this, but there's reasons Shaq was disappointing to me. And that was because his
Teammates.
no, his longevity was bad. Teammates. Okay,
that was a jab at Kobe.
We don't.
Since we're gonna go into
I just the only
hold
rebuttal
on a
I
second.
have,
Shaq, what happened to Shaq before Kobe when he was in Orlando?
Anthony Hardaway got hurt, and
Yeah.
they lost to the Bulls.
Is that the only reason?
They played against the Bulls.
He went to a finals. What happened? Didn't he get swept in the finals?
Yeah, by Akeem. He was a child.
He went to the finals, got swept.
Okay.
He got swept by somebody that is in our top 10 to 12 of NBA all-time big men who you raved about. So I don't Shaq is in my top 10, so I'm not even arguing that from that standpoint. But if Penny Hardaway did not get hurt, that Orlando Magic team could have been different.
Yet Shaq still wanted to leave. Shaq still wanted to leave. He left to become the center for the Lakers. And how many years did it take him to win an actual title with the Lakers? What did he need to win that title? He needed a number 2, a perimeter threat.
Phil Jackson.
Lead them.
Phil Jackson, Derek Fisher, and Robert Horry.
You can say whatever you want. Like, again, he needed Kobe. Shaq says this himself.
Had Kobe doing that first playoff, how much did he help him?
17-year-old Kobe Bryant? Yeah,
He just wanted to hit on 17-year-old Shaq. I mean, he wasn't 17.
I didn't hit on Shaq. Shaq played college, so he wasn't 17 years old when he.
I said he wasn't 17, but he was
Right.
still a kid for all intents.
Kobe Bryant was 17. He was the second youngest player in the history of all of basketball, and he went to the playoffs and was a starting shooting guard. I mean, but
we're not talking about Kobe right now. We're talking about Shaq.
Right.
So let's get back to the topic.
Again, like this is
only-
this is why he's not higher in my list, because for whatever we want to say, as great as Shaq was, I just like Shaq had Kobe and he had Wade and he won with those two. I don't think, unless you're talking about LeBron, I don't think of anyone else in that era that had you put them next to Shaq. So I'm talking Jason Kidd.
I disagree.
Tracy McGrady.
If you would have put Jason Kidd with Shaq,
they're not beating the Spurs, bro.
Look what Jason Kidd did with Richard Jefferson and Vince Carter.
Yeah, he got to the finals and got destroyed.
Because he didn't have that inside presence.
Okay, but so hold on.
They're not beating the Spurs.
So hold on. So right now, if we go back to that finals matchup between the Nets and the Lakers, okay, and you were to put Shaq on that Nets team and give
no.
Give me any other big man that was dominant.
That's not what I said. That's not what I said. The trade offer was Kobe for Jason Kidd. So you wouldn't have sniffed the finals because put Jason Kidd on the Lakers. No, hold on, Omar. Listen to this. Put Jason Kidd on the Lakers and then go back to the semifinals game. In fact, go to 3 semifinals game. Go look at the one versus Sacramento. Go look at the one versus Portland, and go look at the one versus San Antonio. Go look what Kobe Bryant did in the semifinals in all 3 of those matchups, and tell me, is Jason Kidd going to match any of those? He won't. Omar,
But you wouldn't.
Okay. But now you're trying to compare an apple to apple comparison of 2 different types of players. You took Kobe's production. You get a guy like Jason Kidd, who we talked about. LeBron would have got other people else involved, and their stats would have went up. So you would have replaced.
In
How did that
How-
work with Penny? How did that work with Penny?
he got hurt.
He didn't.
hurt.
He's not going to win with those guys. It's a difference of beating the Spurs. It's the difference of beating Hakeem. They were not going to beat those guys.
So hold on. Point guards of all time. Where does Jason Kidd rank for you?
I'd have to think about that. He's up there. I'm a huge Jason Kidd fan.
But
But
see, the
we're
thing
still
is,
getting
what-
off topic.
Okay.
And like you said earlier, we'll be here till tomorrow. But I just want to say the one rebuttal I have for Shaq is you went on and on and on about how dominant he was and how he was so everything, but then you put him at 8. So that just seems odd to me. You say he's
Yeah.
the best,
Again, that's
most
peak
dominant,
versus
best player of
longevity.
all time, and then you
Peak
drop him to
versus
8.
longevity. Peak versus longevity.
Yeah, but he did everything else.
versus
He
longevity.
he had longevity. He played a long time. He put up numbers.
How many games was he playing during the season, Mike? Who carried the Lakers during the season to be a top seed team? Are you forgetting some of these things? Shaq had seasons where he played 40 games. He wasn't playing. He'd come to the team out of shape. He'd be injured, miss a bunch of games. By playoff time, he was ready to go.
And that's why he got
And-
Finals MVP because they needed him more.
No, he
Let's
got
keep
finals
going.
MVP.
Let's keep going.
No,
We
see,
can't.
this is where stuff he changed. He got finals MVP because the team they faced in the finals was from the East, and the East was insanely weak at those periods.
Zico, but
Hold on. Hold on. Think about this. Portland Trailblazers lost to the Lakers in the semifinals in 2000. Had the Portland Trailblazers won, they would have played the Indiana Pacers. Who would have won that series? Portland or Indiana?
Portland.
Okay. In 2001, the Lakers played the San Antonio Spurs. The team that won would have faced the New Jersey Nets. Would the Spurs have beat the New Jersey Nets?
Okay. Just
What
real
about-
quick.
in
Just real quick
2002,
because
Hold on,
Sacramento Kings
Mike,
lost to the
hold on.
Lakers.
Before you
They
go
ended
there,
up
but
playing-
Zico, you talked about Shaq playing 40 games. So Shaq in 99, 2000 played 79 games.
that
and-
season.
74,
that was the
66,
best. That was the peak.
66, 67, 73.
Wait.
Shaq, it was the year before they won it where he played 49.
guys, let's just take a beat for a second. And one of the things you pointed out was getting swept in the finals in Orlando. But when he played in the finals in Orlando, the guy averaged 29 and a half points, 14 rebounds, 8 assists. So I think it was more or less he needed, somebody else.
You
to
talking
do
about
it.
Shaq?
Yes, Shaq.
Shaq in
Kobe
Orlando
Bryant.
did not
Kobe
average
Bryant.
29 in the
16
playoffs, bro.
In the
Kobe Bryant
finals.
2001 playoffs. Kobe Bryant, the 2001 playoffs. In the playoffs, averaged 29.4 points, 7.3 rebounds, 6.1 assists in the 16 games in 2001.
Because they were looking at Shaq.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean anything, Mike. We all acknowledged this earlier that in order to win an NBA championship, you have to have 2 dominant players.
Yes.
Whether it's a dominant big, a perimeter player, or a dominant post player. And we said the only exception to that was the Bulls with Scotty and Jordan being the 2 dominant guys. Because other players fill the roles. But at the end of the day, you're not going to win an NBA championship without having a sidekick, or if not a 1A, 1B. So what are we arguing about?
Exactly.
Well, again,
Who you have
Kobe
in
Bryant
your,
fans would be
your
furious
eight?
with me. Who do I have as number 8? I just
No. You have who does? Yeah,
Oh.
that was your 8th, right?
Yeah, so we're back to you, Mike.
So
Who's your
back on
7?
7. So I have Larry Bird, and this is you had him earlier. I've got him higher. I think what Bird did changed the game. I think Bird was limited by injuries, obviously, but the guy did anything he wanted. I mean, you can listen to people tell stories about Larry Bird. You can watch him play. He played a whole game left-handed for fun. He told people what he was going to do before he did it. You couldn't stop him. The only thing that stopped him was his own body. I mean, the guy dominated.
And using your logic, between 7 and 9, that's not much of a gap.
Completely agree. That's why I had no argument. I said he's a little low, so I agree.
So for me, 7 is Kareem. And I don't think I got to say much about Guy being the second all-time leading scorer, and we all know what Kareem has done in the NBA.
that one's a little surprising for me that he's that low for you, to be honest with you, because I think Kareem is for
Again,
me, I feel like-
once we start going through, you'll understand why Kareem's low. And as I mentioned to you, some of the older guys are lower for me because of different generations and different players. Who do you got at 7, Zico?
For me, I actually have Larry Bird. Mike and I are on spot on.
There we go. See,
And the reason why Larry Bird isn't higher is because Larry Bird, I think, was a liability defensively. However, he was playing on an elite defensive team, so they were able to mask and show him. And I think that saved Larry Bird a lot. When you play on an elite defensive team, which the Celtics have so many of them, it's easy to focus on scoring.
so
And also that he's a little higher in peak as well, because Larry Bird's, I think, has like 2.5 seasons that were absolutely elite in terms of peak performances. I think just the fact that his overall career was hurt by those injuries, I feel bad for him because I'm a big Larry Bird fan. Larry Bird, to me, whenever somebody says some BS like, oh, he wouldn't be able to play in today's NBA game, I'm like, do you not see what Luka's doing right now? It's very similar to what Luka's doing. However, he played a little more off ball. And the fact that he's off ball capable, I think is a little easier for teammates to adjust to.
Oh, he'll be the perfect player to play with LeBron.
He actually would have. Actually, that would be a scary duo. He would have been, that would have been a killer duo.
He's what Kevin Love could have possibly been.
so
He's better than Kevin Love.
he's a lot better than Kevin Love.
No,
Yeah.
I said
I know,
what
I
Kevin
know,
Love
I know.
could have probably been.
IQ wise, that would have been a fun duo, honestly.
Um,
LeBron and Larry Bird would have been a really fun duo IQ wise to play together. So
Going,
Who's your
Going-
number 6, Mike?
yeah, going from Larry Bird, they go hand in hand. It's Magic Johnson. I debated having Magic Johnson out of the top 5 because he does get that nod over Bird, and realistically, I think somebody could convince me to put him over who's in number 5, but I think that Magic and Bird kind of go hand in hand, so you got to have them in that same type of spot. But Magic is Magic. He's the best point guard, I think, in everybody's list. I don't think there's too many people who would debate that. He did everything from right away. He changed the NBA right away. He dominated. Unfortunately, he was cut short as well as far as his career. But that guy he got all of his teammates better. He played
Just like
when you
he's
needed him to.
immortal. He's immortal. Did you see that? Did you see that Instagram video where the guy was talking to him at the football game, calling him immortal? You're the only one that survived when nobody else could have survived.
Yeah, I mean that dude. Yeah, he was. I'm not going to even get into that, but as far as basketball, that guy was different, and I think he could adjust and do whatever a team needed him to do at any given time. Who's your
All right,
6?
so my 6 is what's gonna get it. Mike, you're not gonna disagree who he is because he's in the top 10, but higher. But I have Steph at 6.
Okay, that's very high, but
that's
And
yeah.
it's high, sure, but like I told you, the older guys have moved down because their careers are over. Like we talked about in our last episode, Steph can win another 1 or 2 if he does something and he cements that position. But when you're one, arguably the greatest shooter of all time,
I don't think there's an argument.
then you talk about well, for being that high. I'm saying why I got him that high.
Okay.
Arguably the best shooter of all time. What his career, the fact that he's been with one team, how skinny and scrawny he was to where he is to have the durability, his work ethic, his conditioning and everything. And then for me, you automatically get high in the top 10 is when you transcend the game. You change the culture of the game, and he's had that influence on the NBA, and not just the NBA, but on basketball in general. Our generation, we grew up, it was, the sticking the tongue out like Jordan, you know what I'm saying, or it's the fadeaway Kobe, you know what I'm saying. Now kids shoot that and turn around like they're Steph Curry. He's influenced the game, and he's transcended the game.
Fine with 6, Zico.
My number 6 is same as Mike's, Magic. Magic was what
sounds like you guys colluded for some of them.
No. Mike and I have some things we agree on, even though that there's a big one that we don't. But yeah, Magic is number 6 for me. Magic is he's the reason I fell in love with basketball. As soon as I was a kid, I actually thought when I heard Magic Johnson, the guy did magic. Like as a 4-year-old kid watching Magic play and understanding what basketball was, hearing that name, I thought he really was Magic. I learned to love passing from him. Super exciting player, great ambassador of the league at that time. So he is my
And for
number.
Trojan.
He was a pass first, shoot later kind of guy.
Exactly.
Oh.
Which I have the utmost
Like and
respect
subscribe.
for.
Magic Johnson.
Yeah, we'll say that for the end, Mike. My knocks against Magic, which a lot of people, I've had Magic in my top 5 in the past. Thinking about this list more and more, Magic has dropped. Reason being, Magic actually, I was working on something years ago that, I talked about, Mike. I started doing a data sheet, going over top 10 all time. Nobody played with more Hall of Famers from both ends of the ball, offensive and defensive, than Magic did.
LeBron's competing with them.
No, it's actually not.
Magic doesn't have any Hall of Famers.
LeBron's not done. LeBron might retire at 45 and have played with almost the same amount of Hall of Famers.
Right. The difference at that point is, which LeBron has this for me as well. LeBron has dictated who his teammates are going to be. He's played basically coach and GM for his organizations he's played for. I don't think any players had the amount of power that he has, but in that era that Magic played, the rules were a lot different. Teams basically bought players, bought draft picks. That's how the Lakers got Magic Johnson. They had Kareem, and the very next season they get the number 1 pick. Well, they bought that pick basically from a team that needed the money in a trade that they did. So that's how they got Magic Johnson. That's how they got James Worthy. When you consider the fact that they had Kareem and Magic, and then a couple of years later they get James Worthy with a top pick, and they have all these guys that they were just able to buy and pay for. At that time, there was no cap. So the Lakers had money to spend. The Celtics had money to spend. They spent it. Some of those smaller teams were not able to. So for me, my knock against Magic is 2 things. 1, he had elite level teammates. I think some of the best teams all time. 2, Magic, like Bird, was a liability defensively. He might have had seasons where he had steals and rebounds. It wasn't because he was guarding the other team's best player. The team would hide him as much as possible. It was Michael Cooper guarding him. It was Kurt Rambis guarding the other guys. So, and the fact that he was able to play 1 through 5, you could literally offset him to the weakest opponent on the court, whether they're playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's my knock against him. But again, he's the reason I fell in love with basketball. So, there's not too much of a knock, I don't think, against him.
So number 5, Zico talked about it. His teammate Kareem. I don't think too many people need an explanation. I know a lot of people probably are bumping him out because of that old school mentality. They're getting rid of him. All these new guys are coming in, but Kareem forever was the leading scorer in the NBA. He was the guy. I mean, everything he did, they changed rules in college for him. They changed rules in the NBA for him. They had to adapt it to make it so it was, fair, right? And he still did what he did.
Omar, you got a rebuttal for Kareem?
No, I mean he's in my top 10, and I agree with what Mike said. Again, you guys, he was 7 for me. Again, that gap is not big. 5 and 7 is not that big. Just like I shocked you guys at 6, I'm shocking you with number 5. And number 5 to me is LeBron.
Omar, before Mike rebuttals, I'm just going to let Mike know that LeBron's actually my 5th right now too. So I know Mike wants to rebuttal. I'm going to let him rebuttal.
We'll wait till we get to him. We've got, again.
You know what? Let's wait. Since we got him at 5, let's wait till where Mike has him and let Mike explain why he thinks he should have been at 5.
Okay. Well, Omar, do you want to talk about why you think he's 5? I think we both have to do that. I think that's.
Well, I think he's at 5 because when I name my top 4, it'll explain why he's at 5. Now, another reason is if we take into the fact that yes, LeBron is now the all-time leading scorer. Sure, that longevity plays a role in that as well. And then the fact that early on in his career. In his younger career, he played on the Cavs team where he was a dominant scorer and it got him to this. It put him in advantage to be able.
You,
What?
you
What,
remember back in Cleveland, the biggest knock was he passed when he shouldn't have, right?
Well, that was because I'm going to make this statement. I will take LeBron 46 minutes out of the 48, but I want Kobe in the last 2 minutes. And so LeBron will score 30, but then make that extra pass for the game-winning shot. Yes, that was his knock, and I was one of the people that had a problem with that because got other greats lived and died by them taking that shot. LeBron always made the right basketball play.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying it's not from a basketball standpoint, but not from a great. A great doesn't make always the right basketball play. A great puts that backpack on and puts the team on their shoulders and says, I'm bringing this win home. That's my interpretation of being great. Now, again, we start including, sure, how many championships he has compared to the other four that we're about to list. He's nowhere near that. His finals record, yes, he's been to the most finals out of a lot of these greats, but then look at his record.
So you're
And my
penalizing
biggest,
him for losing
my
the
biggest,
finals
hold
instead
on,
of the first
hold on.
round?
You said what?
You're penalizing him for losing in the finals instead of the first round?
Only the finals record. We're only talking about his finals record.
But you got to get to the finals to get a losing record, right?
I understand that. But again, the four that are above him, their finals record is way better than him. Number one. Number two, hold on. Number two, the biggest knock that I have on LeBron is guys don't fear him. He's not feared by other NBA players. He wants to be buddy with everybody. That's why LeBron has anybody talking crazy to him. But I can tell you right now, nobody was talking crazy to a lot of these guys on the top 10. Most players feared them. They didn't talk crazy to them.
But these guys teamed up to try to beat LeBron.
Oh, and then he teamed up to get his first 2 championships too.
But teams teamed up to beat him.
That's not true.
Well, actually, the Warriors.
He didn't start the big three era.
But hold on, but the Warriors 3 main players, put KD aside. We already put an asterisk around KD and everything about KD, right? But the Warriors' 3 main players were drafted there.
Right.
Okay, so they did not build nobody. Yes, KD came over, and sure, they won 2 championships with KD there. But at the end of the day, LeBron still had to go play with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh to win.
Not to beat the Warriors, though.
Huh?
Not to beat the Warriors.
But it doesn't matter, to win his championships, his first 2 championships. And then when he was in Cleveland, when he won that year in Cleveland, Kyrie played a big factor of why LeBron won in Cleveland.
Okay, absolutely. I think both teammates need to play a big factor. We just went through that with Shaq. If he had a teammate play a decent factor, they would have won.
But Kyrie played a big factor. But I just told you, my issue is guys don't fear LeBron. LeBron wants to be buddy with everybody.
I think that's crazy.
Okay.
Zico, why do you have him at 5?
Okay, so this is part of it is actually a challenge to LeBron. Okay. I want another. I want to know. Yes, I can, because
he's not going to chat.
His career is not over yet, Mike. And so, like, for me, the whole thing with LeBron is people talk about him being the greatest of all time, which he's in the conversation for that. I think he absolutely needs to win at least one other title to actually possibly pass Michael Jordan. I don't think he's passing Michael Jordan. I want LeBron to win another title because it benefits the Lakers. So I just please I'm not going to hate against LeBron. However, when I really thought about this list, because I had LeBron as 2 or 3 until recently, when I really thought about this and looking at the criteria that we talked about players who changed the game, or the game was changed because of them. I think the game was changed because of Michael Jordan. They had rule changes. The game, which is not talked about enough, was changed because of Kobe Bryant. The hand checking rule was changed because of Kobe Bryant and Allen Iverson. Teams could not keep up with them on the perimeter, so they removed the hand checking so you could not put an arm bar up to guard them, which completely changed how we play defense in the NBA. I can't remember the exact year, Mike. I think it was 2005 or 2006. If you want to check on that, it's somewhere around then. but teams were not able to keep up with certain players, so they changed this rule.
So they made it harder for them to keep up with them?
No. They actually made it easier for LeBron to get these stats that he has. And the way that the game has changed, I kind of look at a lot of these guys on this top 10. This is not a knock against LeBron. He's one of the best players to ever play the game, but how many of his stats are where they are because the game of basketball has changed, not because of LeBron, but because of the way the NBA has changed, because of the eras prior to LeBron. Like, again, I mentioned nobody could stop Tim Duncan or Shaq. So what they started to do is they started changing the defense and offenses so that they could pull big men out of the paint. They put a shooter at the 4 or 5 to force Shaq to step out so the lane is clear so the guards can slash and attack. Like, those things actually happen. And what the ramifications were when those guys retired and were no longer there, you had a wide open paint for LeBron to do what he's been able to do. If you were to put Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Magic,
Kobe Bryant did play then.
His era, what?
Kobe Bryant did play then.
Kobe Bryant's career to me ended right after the Achilles injury, Mike. Like I don't have like if LeBron, I'd have the same conversation with LeBron. If he had torn his Achilles a couple of years ago, like, and he kept playing because like he loves the game of basketball, I would not knock anything that happened past that, which is why I look at that 10-year span. Like, same thing for MJ. MJ missed 2 seasons, which
He didn't play on the Wizards. Nobody counts that.
right, but that affects his stats. Like, if you actually look at that, actually affected his stats. So
Yeah, but
like,
his numbers are still pretty decent.
right. So like, that's like, those are things like, I'm not gonna like use that against him, and I'm not even use these last couple of years against him. I won't.
And then not to forget, I'm gonna throw this out there: the load management BS that we experience in today's game.
Yeah, like, it's different. So like, my whole thing is like, which I don't mind the load management so much because the game is different. With the way that it is played, it is more set up for players to get hurt more. With the way they're playing outside in, spreading the floor the way it is, you have guys flying into the paint. It's like set up for players to get hurt more. So to me, that's actually an accolade for LeBron, the fact that he was able to stay healthy. That's another conversation, which we'll go on later. But again, it's not a knock against him, but I just feel like if any of these other guys played in this era, the time frame that LeBron has played, would they maybe have passed up Kareem as well? Would they have passed up Malone? I think a lot of these guys would have. And if I think about like Michael Jordan in particular, you know, if you look at the pace for what they're playing, actually there was a study done for Kobe Bryant. Yeah, the season he had 35, 5 and 5. There's only 2 players in history that averaged that stats: Kareem, Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. The pace for that game, the average team was scoring 87 points a game. The pace for today's NBA, they're scoring over 120 points per game. I think it's like 119 points per game right now. If you were to put that pace of the game with Kobe Bryant's 35 points a game and open the paint up, I think the stat would have been he would have averaged 44 points a game in today's NBA and would probably average 8 or 9 assists in today's NBA's game.
Where do you think AI would have been?
Exactly. This is what I'm trying to say.
Had AI not been, blackballed out of the league and
so I just want to get this clear. You guys are going to penalize the old players,
which I'm penalizing this player.
But you don't want to penalize any of the 90s guys, because if they played today, it'd be different. But none of the guys back in the 70s and 60s could do it. But Kobe did.
No. I actually think more of the guys from the 90s would have dominated more in today's game as well. I think they would, like Charles Barkley, Karl Malone. What do you think they'd be doing in today's NBA game? That's what I'm like trying to say. I think it'd be a lot easier for them. Like, we talk about Draymond Green as one of the best defensive players in the NBA, yet he doesn't sniff Dennis Rodman.
No.
Who was the greatest defensive player in that era. And when you look at the amount of defensive players in that era, it's a lot harder to do what LeBron is doing right now. Like, that's my only take. It's like, I just don't think his numbers would be as high had he started playing in the 90s and finished his career like time-wise of Kobe Bryant. Like, I just don't think the numbers would be the same. I don't think he would have passed Kareem in points. I think his assists and rebounding actually probably would have been about the same. I just don't think his points would be there because
but Zico, you keep
by the
trying
way,
to explain why both of us have him in the 5th spot. We need to see why Mike thinks it's low.
Oh, we'll get there.
Yeah,
So
we'll get there.
number
Mike- Mike
four,
still- Yeah,
number four, I have Shaq. We went through Shaq. I agree with majority of Zico's points there. In even further them, I bump him up. I think he was the most dominant. I think he was an unstoppable force. He could have won more had health gone his way for some other players. He probably would have won more if they made that Jason Kidd trade. It sounds like. No, just kidding on that. But no, I mean, Shaq was everything Shaq needed to be. He both ends of the floor. He impacted the game. He was
He was the most dominant. He was the most dominant big man.
Yeah, yeah.
I got Shaq at 4. So
We colluded.
we colluded on that one. Who you got at 4, Zico?
so to be honest with you, which I've already talked about this, these are two of my favorite players of all time. I'm kind of stuck between 3 and 4. It's Kobe and Duncan. They're my two favorite players of all time, and I think that they played in well, I know they did. They played in the best defensive era in all of basketball. They completely dominated that era. I think right now the closest comparison you could have to that is like Steph and LeBron.
So who's
dominated
4
their
to you,
era.
Zico?
I just said I kind of am stuck between both of them being
Well,
there.
pick
I'm gonna
one.
pick Kobe because I'm biased and Kobe's my favorite player all time. But I'm not like one of those people that's gonna deny Tim Duncan. And honestly, I see a lot of like lists that have Tim Duncan as like 9 or 10 with like Bird and Magic ahead of him, and I just simply just don't.
I'm interested to see
Talking about
who's your top 2 if Kobe and Duncan are 3 and 4.
which I'll
and
get
we-
to that. We're not there yet. But I'm going to
I know.
talk about both these guys right now in particular. To me, the top 4 players are players that dominated both sides of the basketball. Defense is insanely important to me. I think the NBA today is, again, it's easier to score because teams are not focused on defense. When you're having teams score 147, there was a game I saw earlier this year, 158 points. Didn't go into overtime. There's 158 points. When teams are scoring the way they are,
Shoot
it's
more threes.
sorry, Mike.
They're shooting more threes.
It's not just shooting more threes, Mike. It's the way teams are playing defense. It's the paint is wide open. Like the paint is completely wide open. And like, again, like that doesn't happen if you have an elite shot blocker in the paint, like Tim Duncan. It's not happening. Look at the team that's in first place defensively. Who is it? It's Minnesota. Why are they there? Because of Rudy Gobert right now. He's completely altering shots. When you alter shots, when you have an elite shot blocking center, the Knicks are up there too. When Mitch Robinson was there, when you have teams doing that, it affects the way people can attack the paint and the amount of points they're scoring. They're holding the teams lowest in the NBA today in points. It's completely different when you have that. And Kobe and Duncan did it in an era with the best defensive teams we've ever seen. Statistics prove that. And they both won 5 titles. I don't think people give them enough respect because it's like people talk about like Magic and Bird as being like the greatest rivalries ever. Honestly, to me, it's Kobe and Tim Duncan. I could watch Spurs and Lakers games from that entire era. And whenever I have a son or a daughter, if she likes basketball, I swear I'm going to do that. I'm going to find every old school game and I'm going to make them watch Spurs Lakers because that was to me the peak of basketball. And if somebody wants to argue that, please go watch those games. Go watch playoff Spurs versus Lakers from Shaq to Pau Gasol era. It is the peak of basketball. It's offensive, defensive-minded teams going at it. And to me, Kobe and Duncan, the fact that they're 1 and 2 in all-time, all defensive teams, I think actually one person is tied with Kobe in all defensive teams. I can't remember who it was. But yeah, they're 1 and 2 right now. I think Kobe has more first all teams, though. That was the difference. But the fact that you have 2 guys in that era completely dominated 5 titles each and had to face each other in the West to do it, to me, like I don't think there's more disrespect to those guys than anyone else on these lists just because of what they did in that era. So
We can just roll on that and not spend more time. I got Tim Duncan at 3.
I got Tim Duncan at 3.
yeah,
Yeah.
not arguing that at all. Again, like, I'm glad you guys have him there because again, I was stuck. And as much as I love Kobe,
He's the best power forward of all time,
absolutely.
in my opinion.
Yes, head and shoulders above.
So who you got at 2? Because I'm anxious to see who Zico got at 2 when you
Well, we got to
Kobe.
see Zico's 3.
He just said it. It was
Is it?
between
Yeah.
Kobe and Tim Duncan.
Okay, so you're-
I'll be
I just-
biased. I'll put Kobe, but like
I want everybody to hear that Zico's got Kobe at 3. That's all. That's all I want to hear.
Well,
I just-
I'm telling you, I'm
know.
shocked that Zico got Kobe at 3. To be honest,
so
you know, my
number two-
last list, Mike, Kobe was at 4. So
not,
what are you talking about?
I just want everybody to hear it.
I'm
so-
shocked, Mike. I'm with you. I'm shocked that he just.
Omar, I think
compared
you're
to-
shocked for the wrong reasons. Mike thinks I have him too high. So where is Kobe for
Well,
you?
well-
You haven't mentioned him.
So guys, it's okay. I just
Okay,
wanted
so-
everyone to know that Zico doesn't have Kobe at 1 or 2.
I never have though, Mike. I never have.
I know. I'm
Okay.
pointing out for the audience.
Go ahead, Mike.
Every
3
list.
to 11 is much closer now. So, anyways, so my number two is LeBron James. You guys already talked about LeBron at 5. So all I'm going to do is go through and list things he's done. Okay. So from 03 to 2010 with Cleveland, Rookie of the Year, Rookie First Team, 6-time All-Stars, 2-time All-Star MVP, 2-time MVP, 4-time All-First Team NBA, 2-time All-NBA Second Team, 2-time Defensive First Team, NBA Scoring Champion. Then he went to Miami for 4 years. In Miami, he was a 2-time champion, 2-time Finals MVP, 2-time NBA MVP, 4-time All-Star, 4-time NBA First Team, 3-time NBA Defensive First Team, NBA Defensive Second Team, Athlete of the Year, Sports Illustrated Sports Person of the Year, USA Basketball Male Athlete of the Year. Then he went to Cleveland for 4 years. He was an NBA champion, an NBA Finals MVP, a 4-time NBA All-Star, 4-time All-NBA First Team, NBA All-Star Game MVP, AP Athlete of the Year, Sports Illustrated Sports Person of the Year. Then he went to the Lakers. He was an NBA champion, an NBA Finals MVP, a 5-time All-Star, All-NBA First Team, All-NBA Second Team, 2-time All-NBA Third Team.
Mike, you could have just gave us the link to.
I'm
to
not done.
Wikipedia.
I'm not done. We still got a long list to go to. He was the assist leader in 2020. He was part of the 75th NBA anniversary team. He was again the AP Athlete of the Year, again the Sports Illustrated Sports Person of the Year. He was Time Athlete of the Year. He was the NBA all-time scoring leader, which he eclipsed there. So then I won't go through all the stuff he did with Team USA because this is more NBA stuff, but he is the NBA all-time leading scorer. He has the most consecutive double-digit scoring games with 1,096. He has the most All-NBA first-team selections in history. He has the most 20-point games in NBA history. He's the only player in NBA history to have at least 30,000 points, 10,000 rebounds, and 10,000 assists. He is the only player in NBA history to be top 5 in points, top 10 in assists, top 10 in steals. He is one of 2 players in NBA history to win at least 4 MVP awards and 4 NBA Finals MVP awards. I'll let you guess who the other one is. Jordan, who we all have at number 1, hopefully. He has the most all-time playoff points, the most all-time playoff wins, the most all-time playoff games, and he is the youngest player to reach every full, complete number of points at the youngest age. 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, all the way through to 37,000. He is the youngest person to score those points.
Who did he
That's
pass?
why he's number 2.
Who did he pass
Who did he pass at what?
at each of those points of scoring?
Doesn't
Kobe.
even say, but I doubt he was the youngest to every other one.
It was Kobe.
Kobe.
Kobe
He
long.
couldn't have been the youngest to all the other ones.
All the other ones except for the last one.
Well, so there
He
you
was.
go.
He was the last one too. He passed Karl Malone. Karl Malone was in his 40s when he hit that. So
Okay.
so was
Kobe Bryant didn't reach any of the last ones.
Kobe. I was just saying when he got to
He-
Karl Malone.
he's not on that list.
We're
of
not.
the last
I
ones.
like to. I like to leave that conversation about comparing LeBron and Kobe for another day, because when Kobe decided to retire from the NBA, he still had a couple years left in his tank. Even after, I disagree with Zico on the whole thing is that even though he had his Achilles injury and he wasn't the same player, but he still had a lot left in the tank. And if he would have kept going like LeBron did, you never know, because Kobe left the game where he was still scoring at a high clip.
He was shooting at a high clip.
In
Right.
order to score, you got to shoot.
It'd be
Yeah.
more-
What was he shooting at? Who was shooting at a high clip?
He said
LeBron was
Kobe.
shooting at a high clip.
Kobe in his last couple seasons.
He was shooting. Yeah, he was shooting a lot more shots. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
All right, so
Who's
my
your number 2?
my number 2 is Kobe. I don't got to say nothing.
Well,
I
mean,
got defend why he's at 11, but you don't got to put him in top 2. I just rattled off a whole
oh,
list.
yeah, you do. I think out of fairness to Mike, since Mike, I think you can pick at that. I'm going to let you pick at that. I had Kobe at 3, so I'm going to let you pick at that.
Oh, I mean, if I'll just say something right now. If we all have Jordan at 1, this guy emulated the best to ever do it and is damn near close enough to it, and his accolades speak for it. He has the championships to go with it. He has the awards to go with it. He has the accolades to go with it. He has the numbers. He has the averages. And we talk about generation to generation to generation. We talk about eras of basketball. He is to certain kids what Michael Jordan was for other kids.
Okay.
So
yeah, and like I said, I mean, the difference between 2 and 11 and 3 and 11, I don't think is as big as we want to perceive it to be. The one thing about
and the difference between 2 and
said,
5 is not that much if you're saying between 3 and 11.
the one thing that you just said that I don't think enough people talk about is we always want to hit on everyone's finals record. Jordan, obviously, 6 of 6, 6 finals MVPs. LeBron was finals MVP every time he won a championship. I think that's an important thing. I think that shows who the leader is. I think that's why it was important that Steph got one of those.
Do you really think the fight? I'm not disagreeing with you from the statement that you're making, right? That the final MVP says who the leader is. But I think once the NBA gave it to arguably Kawhi, gave it to Andre Iguodala, they, in my opinion, that finals MVP is not something that you can use in an argument because the NBA themselves.
They had to give it to Iguodala because they didn't want to give it to LeBron on the losing team.
But then again, you gave it to Kawhi.
What do you mean you gave it to Kawhi?
In San Antonio, and I agree that he gave it to Kawhi, but then again,
that was they had such a deep team. There was so many that could have went to any one of those guys.
So you don't give it, so you don't think Tim Duncan should have got it?
No, I again, Tim Duncan was a different type of player who I think did whatever needed to be done to win, and I think that was
we have him as we have him as 3 all time, 3rd all time. We have him as the best power forward, and they gave it to Kawhi. Or for whatever reason, we're not getting into the reasons of the MVP, but when you say that the final MVP goes to the leader of the team in the finals, once they gave it to Iguodala and Kawhi, to me, that no longer holds the same value as you were saying.
I think that goes back to even like the Jerry West finals MVP. We talked about this in the past. His team lost and they still gave it to him. And I think there's something that we have to like remember is the media votes for a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
And whether we want to admit it or not, because we're doing the same thing right now, media is biased. It's if they don't like you, they're going to let you know they don't like you. So I kind of take some of the MVP awards and some of the finals MVP awards with a grain of salt because of it. I get why they did it. I don't agree with it. So like the Iguodala one really just, that was a slap in the face to Steph, honestly, to me. I know he might not have performed to the level that we expected Steph, considering
but he's the leader of that team.
Right. But then at the same time, like, which happens in every single finals performance for everybody, the team that he was playing against was completely focused on him and no one else. They felt like if they could stop Steph, they could beat that team. So every team that was facing Steph was building their defensive system around stopping him. So I'm not going to knock Steph Ford. He should have won that. I don't get some of the stuff. There's a lot of stuff I don't get, like Russell Westbrook winning when he was a 7th seed, getting the MVP just because he averages triple double. Again, like this whole era of stat stuffing, go back to, what's his name? The guy who went on outside my top 10. I'm sorry, I just went blank. But Oscar Robertson, he had 1 MVP as well. It was a triple double season and he averaged it, but You know, I think his team was also a low end team at that point as well. So I don't.
Who you
It's
got
tough.
number two?
Number two, I have Kareem. Um, I just, again, for me, like I look at everything that I had on this list. I know you guys like focus on like certain things. I looked at everything. And to me, Kareem's the closest guy that really comes close to MJ. You know, we talk NBA, but when you consider like college, everything he did in college, he's one of the greatest college basketball players to ever play the game.
Yeah, but that doesn't come into NBA because there's.
I
'cause if
know,
you
I know,
start-
I know. I just saying, like Mike mentioned some of the other stuff. Like if we want to go further, we could start talking like Team USA and things like that as well. Like that. Like there's a lot of stuff
because there's a lot of players in college. If you take what they did in college, it'll translate differently to where they rank.
right.
Not necessarily top 10, but in the top players
Right.
in the league.
Agree with that. And like there's guys that like Kobe and LeBron didn't get a chance to play college. If they had, I think they would have dominated at the college level. So like their stats would be even, their accolades would be even greater.
Or honestly, probably not, because a guy like LeBron that makes everybody around him better. College players are not NBA players.
LeBron would have dominated in
All would
college.
have dominated college. So
Yeah, don't. Let's
I'm
not do that.
Where would he have
it's-
gone,
it's-
Mike?
The only
What
thing I
college,
think,
what college was he going to go to?
Most likely Duke.
OU. I'm joking.
See,
I-
no, it probably would have been OU,
It probably would have
Ohio
been
State, OSU.
But again, like Kareem had 6 titles. He had 6 MVPs. He had 2 finals MVPs. Second leading scorer all time now. He played defense. He was 11 all defensive teams, which is only behind Kobe Bryant and Tim Duncan. For him, like when we talk about longevity and what somebody did for a career, to me, he's still right there. I honestly think he's the one guy like I could argue against MJ for having the number 1 spot, but still to me, MJ's at the number 1 spot, which I'm going to lead into that. I think we all are on the same page right now.
Yeah.
MJ's number 1. Everybody tried to be like Mike. Everybody, like Omar said, Kobe came the closest, but still like as close as he came, like MJ was like really when I really started loving basketball. Although I loved Magic, when I watched MJ, it was a different level. I talked with your brother Anthony about this. How many guys try to do the moves MJ does? Hakeem to this level too, post play, that it's like nowhere near to the precision that they can do it. Everybody tried to be like MJ. No one could come close. The skill level for me is right there. The defensive level is right there. The athleticism is through the roof. He's still one of the greatest athletes to ever play in this game. And he did it in an era where, like, imagine if he played today and has, like, we talk about, like, Braun spends $1 million every offseason focusing on his body. Imagine if MJ could do that today, has the training cycles that the players are using today, the offseason regimens and all these things. That didn't exist back then. And he was still doing these things. I just don't think it's close for anyone else. And I think you guys are on the same page as me right now.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, we're probably going to spend too little time on Michael Jordan just because we all agree. I mean, you can hear different people argue for different reasons, and you're not going to get that from the 3 of us. What he did was insane. The guy took 2 years off and came back without missing a beat. I mean, he went and played baseball and was decent at that. Not that that has anything to do with basketball, but just everything he did from top to bottom, both ends of the court. He affected practices. He made people on other teams better because they gave him more and they tried. And I just listen to any story about him from any player. Watch the things he did. The guy just loved basketball and he just did everything that was asked of him.
Shout out to players that played against him. We got to get the homie Keith Kloss so he can tell you his story about playing the Bulls and his experience with MJ and Dennis Rodman. I know the story. I'm not going to kill it, but when he says it firsthand, it's classic.
Which, by the way, we do plan on having a couple of former NBA players in for interviews for our podcasts. Those are coming. Keith is more than welcome to join us. I'd love to have him. I think that'd be a pretty cool episode too, especially to go over that. Yeah, like Mike said, we're probably not going to talk about MJ enough. Again, for me, the two-way Offense and defense is most important. An example, guards who finished the season in top 5 in MVP and defensive player voting more than once. Michael Jordan did it 7 times. The only other guy that came close to that is Kobe Bryant with 2. No one else came close. You could look at big men. Tim Duncan was in that conversation. Kareem was in that conversation. Bill Russell, obviously. But that was a little bit of a different era since they weren't recording a lot of the defensive statistics. And Hakeem. So no one else sniffs that list in terms of defensive potential. So for me, the fact that you can go out there, dominate offensively the way you did, be the competitor that you are, and go lock people down defensively, and have the drive to do that, and Phil Jackson is one of the greatest coaches of all time. To me, he's the second greatest coach of all time. Pop is number 1. The way Phil Jackson didn't want Jordan guarding the best player in a lot of those games. He was more focused on making sure that Jordan was playing in a situation that was best for the team, and he used him as the offensive go-to. He would have Pippen guarding or Rodman guarding the best player more. However, the way Jordan was, he demanded switches. He wanted to do that. The same thing happened with Kobe. Phil wanted Kobe guarding someone else. There was, at the end of the game, Kobe demanded, I'm guarding this one for the fourth quarter, or I'm going to guard this person this game. I think the fact that you have guys like that are that strong-willed and defiant to the point of they want to win so bad that they will risk their entire bodies on both ends of the court is something I love more than anything. And Michael Jordan is the epitome of that. I don't think only LeBron hardcore fans are going to argue this. I just don't think anyone else will argue it. Any knowledgeable basketball fan will argue it. So I'm glad we're all on the same page with that one.
Yeah. We all colluded together.
Yeah.
With facts.
So touching that though, since we did outside looking in of these top 10, who do you guys think is the one guy or 2 guys that are closest to toppling Michael Jordan? Now we have our own list. This is our bias list, but it's a little different when you think of like who might surpass him. And I've talked about this before. To me, the best way to actually do this list is an actual survey. Like I feel like if you took 1,000, 2,000 current, former NBA players, coaches, trainers, as opposed to these ESPN analysts who I could not care less what Nick Wrong has to say about any of the greatest all time. I just don't. Whenever somebody says, "Did you hear what he said?" No, I will never listen to what he says. I don't care.
Who?
Nick
Wrong.
Oh.
Yeah.
Or Skip Say Less.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, like if I were to do this like appropriately, Mike, again, I would pull like 2,000 of them, current, former NBA players, coaches, trainers, general managers, whoever you want, organizational affiliates from the league. And someone has done this. And when they did this, the players and coaches that voted still had Michael Jordan. Like I think it was 79% voted Michael Jordan's greatest all time.
There's nobody near Michael Jordan right now.
But the 3 guys that were closest after that ended up being LeBron, Kobe Bryant, and Kareem. Those were the next 3 votes that came. And LeBron, actually it was Kobe that had the second most. Kobe had 11%. LeBron had 10%. Kareem, I think, had 8% or 7%. So,
but from current NBA, like future NBA greats, I still don't see anybody coming close to topping Jordan. Pause.
And like this is the interesting conversation that we can have later on, because like Luka's kind of set to like break a lot of LeBron's records just the way he's going. Like longevity will be the issue. I think Jokic is going to break some of his records too. At that point, we start talking about, are they better than LeBron? To me, no, they won't be. But then if you're going to have that conversation,
but statistically, they can drop him out of that seat he's in.
Right.
Statistically.
And so
and
for me, that was actually why I had LeBron drop in my list. If we're going to have the conversation of, well, Jokic is going to pass him in these stats, and it already has surpassed him in certain stats, but he will never be better than LeBron. Well, why aren't we doing the same thing for LeBron when it came to the conversation of Jordan? Why will he never surpass him? It's the same conversation to me. Like, this is why I just cannot put him ahead of Jordan. I can't put him in that conversation because it's the same statistical analysis of those guys versus LeBron and LeBron against MJ. So again, this list for everybody that was listening that got this far, this is our own opinions. This is what we feel. This is how we feel about it. And like, I know Mike hates Kobe Bryant. Hater Mike hates Kobe Bryant. He's going to put him at number 11. That's okay. That's Mike's opinion. We can argue it. You know,
Hey, you guys
almost,
convinced me. He toppled the king. He got past them.
well, I know he did, but to me, having him ahead of Curry ahead of Tim, that one completely came out of left field, and no comment.
Omar agrees. He's in top 10. He got there.
Well, no, I said Curry passing Kobe.
Yeah, I know.
And again, like to me, like those were the things that were most important. I followed everything on this list. What were the things that you guys talked about in terms of criteria that were actually important to you? Was it just opinion based, or was there something that stood out in our last conversation where you're like, oh, this is actually important to me?
I think what they did for the game, I think that has a big say in it. But I also think there's a lot of firsts in there. I still have a lot of the old school guys, which I can get on board with the mentality of era and that changing things, and maybe you can adjust a few people. And
Well,
like
I think
said,
I think
outside
we should
blow.
throw out an episode later down the line as top 5 of every era.
Yeah, we'll do that. That's a great episode, actually. Top 5 every position, top 5 every era. We got a lot of content where this is going to go
So
on.
here's
And
one thing I want to
see,
throw out.
before we jump into all that too, let's have our viewers, maybe comment on what you want us to go through. Maybe you're tired of doing top whatever.
Yeah,
Give us some topics. Give us some
Give
topics.
us some.
there's I've already got a lot of those. This was the number one. Everybody was waiting for this, and I wanted to give this to him. I'm going to post top 10 from each of us on the Instagram and let people vote who they feel is most accurate or whatever they want to do, whatever comments they want to add. We will read some of those off. Also, if you guys want to email us, something you guys wanted to read out loud, I'll absolutely do that. If you guys got something if you want to
Mean tweets, Michael.
go off on, if you want to go off on Mike, mean tweets would be great. I think those would be awesome. So
I have no
go
problem.
off on Mike for being a Kobe hater. I will read all of those.
The holiday fit. You guys can go in on the napkins, the checkerboard. That's
I don't
I'm
think
good with it.
yeah, it's the holidays. That's a good looking shirt you got on there. So
here's a question. Out of the players that are playing right now, I know you mentioned Luka a lot, you mentioned Jokic a lot. Okay. Outside of those two, Mike, who do you have that you think is currently playing that has the potential to crack the top 10?
we went
When
over
it's all said and done.
episode.
Yeah.
No, just one guy, because I want to throw something out there.
It's going to be real hard, and I'm going to say this and take it with a grain of salt because I think he can get there, but he's got to do a lot. He's got to prove he's a leader, and that's Kevin Durant.
Okay. I was
Yeah,
thinking a little more younger. I was
Yeah.
thinking a little more younger.
If KD wins a title like this year with the Suns, I think I agree with Mikey. Then he
And you're talking Jason Tatum then?
Oh, no.
Jason Tatum, yeah. Jason Tatum, Luka to me, and Jokic are like those next 3 that could be talked about. I don't know if there's anyone. Embiid as well, but they got a long way to go. They have to win multiple titles to get there. So
Well, that's why I said when it's all said and done.
Who do you think?
From statistically,
Yeah.
oh, I'm throwing it out there. There's 2 players that if they end up winning multiple titles with their current stats and what they're doing to today's NBA is I'm going to say SGA and LaMelo Ball. If they win enough NBA championships.
That's such a big if. Hey, we gotta go to bed. Omar's getting crazy. It's late.
Yeah, that one.
No, how? Okay, hold on. No, LaMelo Ball has his own signature shoe.
That
Okay,
means nothing.
hold on. But
has his own
I said
signature.
if he wins enough championships, I didn't say if he wins one. So you're telling me, but by the time LaMelo's career is over and he has NBA championships and has won multiple MVPs, you would not put him in the conversation of cracking the top 10?
The guy's not hit. Okay. Listen, I like LaMelo. I like the way he plays. I think LaMelo can be a good complementary player, but that's the height for him. I mean, you think
Complementary
this
players.
guy, you think LaMelo's going to get to a level where he's outplaying Embiid, he's outplaying Tatum, he's outplaying
Not
Joker, he's outplaying Luca, he's outplaying SGA. You think he's going to get to that level
I
where
put
he's
SGA was the
SGA?
other guy that I said if he wins multiple.
Well, no, I know that's why I
Accolade.
was using him. You think he's going to perform to an MVP level above and beyond those guys?
Statistically, yes. Statistically, yes, because his numbers. If you just look at his current numbers,
Okay, I'm gonna look at an important. Hang on, I wanna look.
hold
up
on. He is hurt right now. Yes, he is
Wait,
hurt
no,
right now.
no, I don't. I want to look up.
What's
Charlotte is 7-20.
Again, I'm not saying he has to stay in Charlotte, but I'm saying if he ends up winning multiple MVPs and wins 5 championships with his statistics and his ability to get everybody around him involved, and that's the way he scores, you don't think he
Okay,
can enter
okay.
that argument?
So this is another thing that we had a conversation, and we've still kind of done it. That's way too many ifs. I mean, if I sit here and said if, and I'm going to go back to the same one we always do, if Brooke Lopez and Milwaukee win the next 5 championships and he gets
Go to the simple one. He keeps talking about Jokic and Luka.
Yeah,
That's because Zico has a bias.
Right, but I'm gonna throw this out there. Like,
But those are big.
Yeah,
I like LaMelo, but like LaMelo can't touch Anthony Edwards right now to me. And if you want to mention someone who's going to be ahead of that next group,
I mentioned that go back 2 episodes ago. I put Anthony Edwards in there.
right?
Edwards,
I don't.
Wemby in 3 years.
I like
Holmgren, all those guys.
SGA. I like SGA. I like LaMelo. I just don't think they're in this conversation right now. They haven't done anything
Halliburton.
to get there. And part of me also wants to reiterate this. Some of those stats are a product of their era. This is the same issue I had with the early NBA days of the 70s. It's a product of their era. And I don't think they'd be doing it if they were in a different era. They'd be different players with different roles, and they're great.
From anybody on that list, I can tell you right now, the only one that we've ever talked about with an asterisk, remember the asterisk list? Is to me Anthony Edwards, if the era was different. Because everybody else that we talked about on here is soft.
Right. Anthony Edwards could play in different areas because the way he's playing, he's bringing back the mid range. SGA to an extent as well. The NBA is going towards close 2-point wide open points in the paint where they're spreading the floor and giving lanes for slashers, and corner and top of the key 3-pointers. Those are the most taken shots in the NBA. Whereas you go back and look at some of the shot attempts in the earlier days, Tim Duncan taking mid-range jumpers off the glass was as efficient as the 3-point shot right now in today's NBA from the wings.
So realistically, we'll probably cover and talk more about this. Everybody should like and subscribe to hear it. I don't think we want to go on for another hour or 2 hours right now.
Omar's I'm gonna end it with this before Omar calls somebody. Mike talked about Steph Curry changing the game and people outside of the game as opposed to inside the game as well. So I just want to remember this. When you see somebody have a piece of water paper in their hands, something like this right now, and there's a trash can in the corner, whose name do they say every time they pretend they're about to hit a game winner?
It's funny. It's funny. It's funny because you're right. All those guys they yell Kobe, and then just like him, they brick.
Right. Okay. You keep saying that. Yeah, his shooting numbers are better than you allude them to be. So that's fine. But I'm gonna finish with what
Kobe just rolls off the tongue better.
Kobe,
no. That whole Mamba mentality stuff.
We talked about NBA and how these players affected the NBA. If you went and you talked about the rest of the world and you talk about players outside of the US, go to Europe, go to the Asian countries, and they're going to have a completely different conversation with you about this. They say Kobe 1, Jordan 2, the same way Omar did. LeBron's not even the conversation. Like it's a completely different conversation with the way they play and the way European basketball is, which European basketball isn't really catered to LeBron, whether you want to accept that or not. It's catered to guys in the style of play that Kobe and Jordan played with, system basketball. It's worldwide.
That's why they're all.
Guys,
That's why they're
so
all.
those two guys affected the world of basketball.
Wait, what'd you say, Mike? Hold on. What'd you say, Mike?
That's why they all want to come play in the NBA because it's
Right. Because they grew
Actually, Mike, that is actually a false statement because there's a lot of European players, and Zico can attest to that, that can play in the NBA that have chosen not to play in the NBA, and there's some that have played in the NBA that have gone back to Europe and are still playing at a high level. So it's not about guys. It's not about that. If we start getting to this whole conversation, we could talk about Team USA and how the world has caught up and how it has not been easy for any kind of Team USA to just easily win.
But they're still winning. But they're still winning.
It's not easy.
But did they win that year? Did they win that year that Duncan was on the team?
No, they don't.
Nope.
Who else was
Did they win the first year LeBron was on that team?
No.
What did LeBron need to win the very next
Kobe?
time?
A different coach?
Kobe? No, because as a matter of fact,
no.
they got Coach K. I just finished watching that Redeem Team again.
Yeah, so you're gonna believe all the marketing around the Kobe hype and that they needed him.
It's not even about the Kobe hype.
You're talking about marketing hype. Look at LeBron James and all the marketing hype that goes. Look at Steph Curry. They're in an era where marketing is at its prime.
No, we're not even talking about the marketing hype. We're talking about just stats. When they got Coach K and they had that team that they were building, they lost where they had to play in a qualification round to qualify for the Olympics. That had nothing to do with Kobe at that time.
Did they qualify?
They had to win to qualify. USA.
Did they do it?
Mike, that just shows me where your European and Olympic understanding of the game, it doesn't matter because Team USA never even had to play a qualifying round to qualify.
But then they did, and they still got there.
Okay, so LeBron.
The reason they were in that position was because Duncan and LeBron lost.
They both
and
got
then the
gold
new
medals,
coach
right?
didn't get a chance yet to.
Both got gold medals, right?
LeBron and Duncan?
Yeah.
They didn't. They lost.
No, I said they do.
Duncan, I don't think Duncan has a gold medal.
He never got
He
one.
didn't go back and play?
No,
Okay, well, we're talking about NBA anyways.
he didn't want to. He didn't want to go back and play. Okay, Omar, let's move on to the last step of this podcast. Let's make a call whether you're doing push-ups or somebody's answering. I know you've been sending texts in the last 2 minutes like you really don't want to do push-ups. So
Actually, no, I was not actually.
okay, who's gonna be up? Who's gonna
Actually, full transparent. I said actually text Mike, and then I was looking at the fight with Grant Williams and D Book. So I was just, you know, when Mike went on and ran about talking about LeBron, I was really trying to entertain myself with something else.
I was listening. I don't disagree with Mike on it. Like for me,
Oh, I'm not saying I disagree with them.
like
I'm
Mike
just saying,
talks about like 2 through 11 being really close. To me, they weren't. To me, like 5 through 12 are really, or 6 through 12 are really close. 2 through 5 are really close. So
and I was trying to see if I can get my hands on these Jordans. I was texting somebody to get because I couldn't find my size. So
But Jordan,
let's see who we're gonna call. All right.
Lots of Jordans.
You said what?
I got lots of Jordans, lots of LeBrons. No Kobe.
Do you have any 14s you want to sell or give away for free?
Giveaway? No, I don't think I
Yeah.
have any 14s left. Actually,
So I'm gonna call this person because this person actually is a big supporter of our league. And this person actually listens to our podcast that has actually DM'd me on Instagram and talked about the podcast. So let's see what he has to say. I actually had to ask for his number.
is he
To be
going to pick up
honest.
the phone?
Let's find out.
Put it on speaker so we can hear it ring.
What up, though?
What's up, Ray?
What's going on, Omar? How you doing?
Good, man. We wrapping up this podcast over here, and I know you've been listening to us, and you hear some outlandish stuff, and you know.
Oh yeah. It's out of control with LeBron. HGH is totally taking his career down. Just like Barry Bonds. It's terrible. Put an asterisk on it. Everything.
So here's a question I have for you. You probably heard us talk about the top 10. We're not going to ask you for your top 10, but
I'll do it. We ain't got time.
we ain't got time for that. But the question is,
He
out
sent
of
it to
all
me,
the players,
actually. He
he
sent
sent it to you. So Ray, who was somebody we didn't talk about that you think should be in the discussion of the top 10?
Oh man, that's a crazy question because you got your what ifs, like what if Brandon Roy was healthy? He'd be better than Derrick Rose. But Tracy McGrady, man, Tracy McGrady is he's a beast. He's the only person that really gave Kobe problems. He gave everybody problems. I mean, look what he did in Houston against San Antonio. He won up Reggie Miller, and Reggie Miller is a first ballot Hall of Famer.
So you're saying if T-Mac didn't get hurt, he would have had a chance to crack the top 10?
Even without him getting hurt, just his impact and everything, that dude was a beast. He's an incredible player. But like I texted you earlier, my opinion is kind of crazy because Bird is better than Magic by a long shot. So a lot of people don't agree with me.
We had them right there.
I could be convinced.
Yeah, I mean that one can be altered and convince other people's ranking. But T-Mac is one player we really didn't talk about when we put the what ifs or the asterisks and guys who could have possibly made it and we didn't talk about it. But your selection of Brandon Roy is pretty interesting to me.
I mean,
That would be a
how's
good
he not?
episode.
I mean, he's right up there with Grant Hill. Grant Hill's another what if. Everybody says Derrick Rose, but to me, it would be Brandon Roy, Grant Hill. Then you might get Derrick Rose, or what's that one dude from overseas that used to play with the Nets?
Oh, Zico's lookalike, Petrovic.
Yeah, that dude was a beast.
You know what?
Definitely do a what if episode. I think that'd be a good episode.
We can either do a what if or we can have an episode of the guys who got hurt and didn't really finish their career the way that was anticipated.
Greg
I
Oden.
mean, just like
Somebody like tearing their Achilles like right before getting to the playoffs.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, Ray from the team here, Pass First Shoot Later, we want to appreciate you for subscribing and following and commenting, and we appreciate you being part of the OCBL family.
Hey man, appreciate you guys right back. Thank you for entertaining me.
Thanks,
All right.
Joe.
Hey, Omar's thanking you for picking up.
All right.
I'm here every Monday for you.
See? Those are real supporters. All right, Ray. Have a good night.
All right, see you around later.
Actually, Mike, I had a conversation with Ray, and he really liked the idea of us doing a challenge. Like, if we get 10,000 subscribers, I should shave my head. But he thinks that we should do something for everybody. And one of the things he suggested
I have my
is,
challenge of the push-ups.
right, Omar's got the push-ups, but one thing he suggested is, since you hate Kobe so much, that maybe after we reach a certain amount of episodes, each time our followers, you should wear a Kobe Bryant jersey for the next episode.
Yeah,
I like that.
Sure. If we reach 10,000, I'll wear.
No.
Let's spice it up, Mike. Every 500
every-
followers, you put on a Kobe Bryant jersey.
All right. Every 500 followers.
No.
we get-
Every 250. It has to be more frequent. Because there's going to be so many episodes where Mike's going to talk crazy about Kobe. We just have to keep refreshing people that it's against his, blood.
Sweating right now, bro.
No. I'm just wondering.
Every 250 followers.
Then that
You gotta
means
wear a Kobe jersey.
how many push-ups you doing? How often is Zico shaving his head? Like, why am I the only one?
Oh yeah, we could up it. I think that's actually a good idea. We make challenges a little more frequent. I'm okay with that.
And also, I just want to be very clear. I'll put on the jersey. I'm not buying the jersey.
Oh, that's fine. We'll get you a
fit you.
jersey.
Omar's will fit you. I don't think you could buy it right now, Mike. They're all sold out.
Don't worry, Zico. Next time we make an order for OCBL, I'll make different Laker Kobe jerseys just for Mike to wear.
They're not official brands, but
Not official brand, but
actually, I don't know if we could actually do that, Omar.
Yeah, we can. JC Petty does the knockoffs. I'll just make a couple of knockoffs for Mike to wear for the episode.
Yeah, knockoffs, yeah, but Mike, I don't think you'd give him
Hey,
even.
that's fitting since you guys want to talk about how he's a knockoff MJ.
I'm not arguing that he is.
And I said he emulated the best.
He was the only guy who actually could. No one else could do it.
Hey, if we do it, I want to wear number 24. I don't want number 8 Kobe.
That's fine with me. I prefer number 24 Kobe to number 8 Kobe personally. My favorite era of basketball was Kobe and Powell. It was the most fun basketball I've ever watched in my life. So number 24 is a little closer to me than number 8. So
And your favorite player, LeBron James, tried to wear the 2 jersey number, hoping to get both of them retired, just like Kobe did.
Pretty much. But I
that's
will say one thing. I want everybody to be very on point with this as far as Kobe Bryant. I think that where he was going in life, I think he would have made a lot of good things happen for the NBA.
You talk about post basketball career.
Yeah, I mean, he was a different person. He became a different person. I think becoming a father does a lot and changes a lot. And I think that
Absolutely.
where he was going, I mean, by no means was I a person who hated Kobe where I was like, yay, he died. Nobody wanted that. No one wants to see that. And I think he was doing a lot. And I think he would have been beneficial. And I think a lot of the things he talks about and that Mamba mentality, I think helps a lot of kids train and become and push harder. So let's take it down a notch with the Kobe hate. Where he was as a kid and what he did in the beginning of his career was much different than where he ended up as a person towards the end of his life. So
agree with that, Mike. But I just and this goes for a lot of NBA players. Most NBA players are jerks, man.
yes.
Like for whatever media wants to portray them as being something different, it's not true. Like Omar knows. Like I've met a ton of them. I've spent time with a ton of them. Omar has as well. And I don't want to say names because
No name. We're not going to
I don't
name
want
drop
to put names,
And
but
we don't
most
need
of them. And I've met Kobe, and Kobe's actually one of the nicer guys that I've met. I've met a couple that have been so off-putting that I can't put it to words, but I didn't let it affect.
I mean, we've had some of them play in our league.
I mean, it happens.
Okay, but
It's
But I
when
think-
when you get to a situation of being there are 300 and 400 players in the NBA every year. When you get to be one of those players in one of those years, it's like I don't blame them for their egos to be what they are. I get it. It gets to you, but I guess it comes with the territory. Like there are very few of them have been good. I will name some of the guys that have been great. Kobe was always really nice to me. He was great. I met him multiple times. He was beyond nice to me. But to be honest with you, the nicest guys I've ever met, Michael Thompson, former Laker, dad of Klay Thompson, was probably one of the nicest. Lamar Odom is probably the nicest guy that I've ever met. Multiple occasions having conversations with him. He's the kind of guy who would take time to talk to fans, which was very few guys have the time to do that. He made the time. Powell was great too. A lot of the guys I met were Lakers, by the way. So just being around that situation gave me those opportunities. So yeah, but most guys are jerks.
I thought Zico said he wasn't going to name drop.
Well, I said I'll name the guys that were nice. Like I'll say that the name dropping, I think would for the guys that weren't would actually probably be.
we don't need to.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that, but okay, guys, let's finish off there. Thank you guys for tonight. I think that was a great episode. I hope everybody likes it. Again, I'll post each of our top 10 online. You guys chime in, tell me what you guys think. Let me know how you feel about Hater Mike. And
Hey, put Ray's top 10 up there too, just so everybody can see it.
I don't know if Ray wants to put his top 10 up.
Okay, don't do it then.
Ray, if you want your top 10 posted,
Hey, Ray, if you want your top 10 posted, in fact, we'll do this. For every fan that tags OCBL and posts their top 10, I'll repost it. We'll go from there. And then that way it's
Comment
open for
in
everybody.
the comment section on YouTube.
Exactly.
And then
So,
like and subscribe. You can do it all in a row.
by the way, some of the episodes are already uploaded onto Apple Podcasts. So you guys can listen to here. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts. I'm working on it for Spotify. So hopefully I'll have that up there soon as well.
Be on board.
and not to forget our sponsors. Mike,
Which sponsor are we going with?
Which one
I
we
don't
go?
know. Is that I'm just trying to remind you.
Massimo's Pizza. Massimo's Pizza, our #1 sponsor. They're the best. It's one of the best pizzas in Orange County. Thank you to them. They have already given us free pizzas multiple times. They want to throw us a pizza party as well. Maybe we could do an episode at Massimo's Pizza. That'd be pretty cool.
Oh, I'm down.
I could do that.
And they got halal.
They do, yes. So, all right, guys. Thank you guys for today's episode, and I'll see you guys next week.
Yes, sir.